All right, y'all. Welcome to All Politics are Local, America's number one
One.
political talk radio talk show. Y'all know if it's Friday, y'all know it's time for All Politics are Local. But more importantly, you know that if it is the fourth Friday, y'all know it's time for the disciples. So we're gonna click on and Roundtree gonna tell you, what's going on, and of course, who's on with her. But we're gonna give you the rundown, me and Zaid, to tell you what's coming up, right? So Zaid, what we got coming up?
At 7 o'clock, we've got a conversation about a new book that's going to be. Oh, this book is out, but this young black scholar has got this new book out on Hubert Henry Harrison, a forgotten legend of the black radical tradition. He was a contemporary of Mr. Garvey. In fact, some say Garvey out organized him when they were on the scene together. But he was a premier black socialist back in the 19 teens. This is the second major book on him in some years. And the Community Movement Builders is doing an event next week that they're going to lift up tonight on Hubert Harrison. Renee Johnston from Community Movement Builders, and Trust Graham from Afrikan Echoes. Many years ago, in that first book, Jeffrey Perry dropped the first major book on Hubert Harrison. Afrikan Echoes hosted him here in Newark when that happened. So just for that continuity, they're going to have them together at 7 o'clock. After that, at 7:45, we're going to have a spotlight tribute to the late Claudette Colvin. Claudette Colvin, of course, those of you who do know, was the first of a number of women, of 5 women, who protested segregated busing in Montgomery, Alabama, by refusing to give up their seats. Claudette Colvin, on March 2nd, 1955, only 15 years old, was the first of 5. Rosa Parks was number 5. 4 women did that beforehand, and we're going to tell that story. And Claudette Colvin, later in her life, developed a relationship with a lot of us right here in Newark, so we're going to lift her up. She just passed away a few weeks ago. We're going to lift her up at that conversation. And of course, we miss our DJ Rhino. We're looking forward to him coming back. DJ Rhino, all things in hip-hop.
Yep. All right, and then of course we might have some surprises going on tonight because there's a number of things going on in the city. So there may be a couple of surprises coming in live tonight.
Good. Okay.
All right. So let's welcome Roundtree to the show, and we can start talking with her. She'll tell you what's going on with her co-hosts and so forth with the disciples. Roundtree, can you hear us?
She's muted. Your connection is going out.
Could be that inside Central.
Yeah, she's back to school.
They have,
Well, while she's doing that, we just want to thank we had a
I'm getting some. Okay. I'll sit over there. I'm good. Here I am. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the All Politics. Hey, baby. All Politics, the local number one hip hop radio station. We are so excited about what, hey, baby. All right, what the men and women are doing right now. They're having a joint meeting. And can I have this chair, please? I'm trying to do the men and women's meeting as well, Simon. Hello, beautiful. How are you? Okay. Hello, sugar. Good evening, good evening. I'm so sorry. Y'all know I'm live.
We got to
Welcome to the Northern.
apologize.
Can you guys hear me?
yeah.
Welcome to the show, to the disciples. I love you, Baba. I love you, Ed Riley. My
We love you more.
co-conspirators are not with us tonight. We're at Central High School. And if you know what tonight is, it was only meeting. So we're doing a joint meeting with the men and the women, all politics, America, the world, number one, not this Facebook show. This is America's, the world's number one all politics are local. Thank you, Ed Riley, for your vision. I miss
Yep.
you, Lady Ali. I miss you, Minister Abdul Haq Muhammad. But you know that we are on assignment, and I'm doing my best, Brother Baba, to fill in. This has been a trying week for many of us, and they say the storm is on the way. But we're used to storms, my brothers and my sisters. So this little snow they talking about is nothing compared to what life has dealt us, Brother Baba. We were walking on Monday of the march with Larry Ham. We were dealing with another situation in our community. We are used to storms, honey. But anybody that know about a storm knows that after the storm comes a what? A rainbow. Is that right?
Right.
Is that right?
That's right.
So, as I said earlier, we do have the thanks be to God, the men and women's meeting tonight, and it's going to be so amazing to see the women and men together come to get information. We are excited, really excited about it. They have the vendors here. If you anything a service to provide for this rail. Make your way to Central High School tonight with Mayor Baraka and all of those that are coming here from Port Authority. As a matter of fact, Mr. David Muhammad, can you please come and be a guest on my show tonight? On your show? Yes, come on.
Hey,
What honor do I have? Come on. So you all know Minister Abdul Haq Muhammad, right? Y'all know I'm
yep.
pulling the guests. So Minister Abdul Haq Muhammad is his minister. And it just so happens that David Muhammad is responsible for some of what is going on in this place at Central High School tonight. So I'm going to give him the show and let Brother David Muhammad tell you who he is, what his position is, and what we're doing at Central High School. Won't the God provide, Brother Baba, what you need, when you need it, and what you need it for? Brother David Muhammad.
Peace all. Blessed
What's
New
up?
Year. I thank you
Hey,
to our esteemed Reverend and Councilwoman Louise Scott Roundtree. This is actually, I am here just trying to hold the line. The mayor, he had tasked us to go out and find what benefits when people are doing development, when people are doing different things in the city, how Newark residents can be involved and benefit from it. So tonight, the Port Authority is here to do a presentation. Actually, they're contractors for a project that's going to be $3.2 billion. And there's some local designation, women and minority designation, and we want our residents to get some of that money.
you broke up. Dave, you froze. Can you hear me, Zach?
Yeah, so Reverend Roundtree got me here holding the
Brother Dave, you freezing. I think
line. Can you hear me? Yeah.
you
But
know what's
I'm
happening.
gonna now go ahead.
No. You just every now and then, if you're moving around, you got to try to stay in one space because you start to freeze if you're moving around.
Oh, got it. Yes, indeed. Okay.
So you were
So I'm
saying,
not sure how much you all were able to capture. Go ahead.
yeah. So you were saying that the Port Authority was there. You were saying the amount of money that's going to be available, and that we make sure the city got our part.
So yeah, the reception here is not that well. I heard only part of what you said. But in essence, what it is there's some work that's being done at Newark Airport, being done by the Port Authority. They're replacing the air train, which is a $3.2 billion project. And in that project is right in our backyard. So oftentimes the Port Authority and other folks, they would do work, New Jersey Transit, they do work that's in our city, but a lot of times we don't get access to the information so that our residents, our contractors, our service providers, and our suppliers can take advantage. So the mayor has incorporated his men's meeting as well as with the women's meeting is happening tonight at Central High School. And we have the Port Authority's prime contractors here to talk about what scopes of work are out there, the timeline for the work, and how our residents can take advantage of it, or our contractors and service providers.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful, man. So did you say, Dave? Did you say $3.2 billion?
Go ahead.
How much did you say, Dave? 3.2 billion is available.
What is that?
What did you say the number was again? 3.2 what?
It's 3.2, it's $3.2 billion.
Wow.
So normally on contracts, there's usually like a 25% minority business enterprise portion. There's a maybe a 10% women business enterprise portion, and now there's also a local 10% for local businesses, regardless of if they're women, men, or people of color. If you look at $3.2 billion and you look at just 25% of that, that's about $700 million. So, it would be tragic and a shame if our local businesses don't get a piece of it. But part of it is there's one thing to present the information. The other part of it is to for our organizations and our businesses to get themselves in a position so that they can procure some of the work. If they don't have the capacity, what the mayor talks about all the time at his men's meeting is we need to pool our resources so that we can take advantage of things like this. And this is, something that can be wealth, that benefits folks from a building wealth standpoint, on a generation basis.
And do we know, Dave, what jobs might be available? What type of tradesmen opportunities are available? Do we know that?
So it's going to be the building trades that are going to be doing the actual construction work. So you're looking at electricians, plumbers, iron workers, all of those particular trades associated with the building trades. What happens in those cases is, you know, our folks that are our local residents that are in those particular locals, those local unions, those are the ones that are going to be able to benefit from it first. But what happens is that's where the accountability, you said, all politics local. The political side of it is for those who are in particular offices in our community, servants, that we make sure that we hold accountable those particular trade unions as well as the contractors with our people getting some work. So we have to just not have, one meeting and feel good and people get the numbers and we tell everyone. But as the different trades go on, we need to make sure that we're shaking down the unions. And that's this project. You got all type of development going on within the city. So what generally happens is one of the games that are sometimes played when it comes to union work. They may say that, well, we don't have anyone in our local that's available. But with the number of jobs and development that's going on in the city, the unions need to really do some recruitment. But what happens is the recruitment, and we have to also disseminate the information when each union is having an open house, because they might have 75 positions, but they may have like 400 people show up at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning in like Richfield, New Jersey.
Hmm.
And if we get there at 9:05, then we missed the boat. We got to wait till next year. So we have to make sure that all of our community partners, when we get information about when the different trades are having an open house, then we want to tell our folks to make sure that they get their information. And they can also just look at online at each particular trade union and see when they are having their apprenticeship class. And then the other part of it is with this project, some of the contracts are going to be service contracts, cleaning contracts, things like that. So folks that have a cleaning company, that's not, as much. I won't say it's not as a much of a skill lift as an electrician, but it is also some work, and those jobs pay prevailing wage.
But Dave, let me ask you this, because as you know, that's one of the ongoing issues with Deputy Mayor Mohammed, right? One of the ongoing issues has always been about making sure that we training young brothers and sisters in our community so that when these opportunities come available, that they're in position to get them. Now, the question is, do we have the people who are already trained and licensed to qualify for these positions?
So some of them, yes, but that when you get to the more skilled trades like electricians, plumbers, carpenters, very rarely do you find them being out of work. They may not be on a job in Newark, but those with that skill set, they usually are they're not out of work, because even if they don't have work through their unions, their particular skill enables them to get work, you know, fixing some, I should say, on their own. So when it comes to that part, the issue with training and one of the challenges is if we have like what has been traditionally called a pre-apprenticeship program. So David Muhammad goes to a pre-apprenticeship program. He gets his OSHA 30, which is good. You can use that on any particular construction site. But let's say I take a course in carpentry, a course in electrical, a course in plumbing. Unless that particular course is recognized by the state the state of New Jersey's Department of Labor for that particular skill, then it's not going to be something that is accepted when they go on most of the construction sites. And that's been one of the major challenges with training our folks is we get them there. And if we don't get them the training that has that certification to where they can say, well, I got the same training that I would have gotten had I went through the trade union. So
Yeah, because as you know, that's one of the arguments, as I said, that Rock has been putting up. Because as you know, Deputy Mayor Muhammad, one of the things we talk about is that just making sure that our people are trained so that when those opportunities come, that they're in a position to get those jobs. Because as you remember, when the street doctor was alive, remember he used to travel to those sites, and the questions he would always ask is why weren't we on those sites, right? Why was it mostly Latinos? And then of course the deputy mayor, Muhammad's response was always, well, it's because our people are not qualified to be on those sites. So we need to be able to do what you're saying, because we could have 3.2 billion-dollar opportunity, but if we don't have young men and women who are qualified to be put in those positions, then it's just like you said, it's just a feel good opportunity to talk about what's available, but we're not even qualified to be on the field to even get picked, right? We got
So,
to be
so,
even get picked.
so, Street Doctor and I were partners in that. I worked with him in the Office of Affirmative Action. I was, uh, fortunate, that the mayor had saw fit for me to be in a position to try to do those very things. So Street Doctor and I did work together on that. And yes, we did on a lot of the sites. But here's what happens. Number one, it's a myth that a lot of other folks outside of us, let's say, of folks on site who are Africans, of African descent, that we don't have the skills and the others do. Sometimes they don't. They're just given the opportunity because, we may be used to a certain pay scale. They get on a job sometimes making less, and then but they acquire a skill set. The other thing is when it comes to compliance, it's they count the same way an African American or a person of African descent who's in North, they count the same as a Latino or someone who's Asian. So they may be in compliance, but from an optic standpoint, it doesn't reflect the community. So the other challenge too is even with some of our people who get the contract, they also have to be intentional at hiring people also who look like them and
Right.
don't just become more of a capitalist uh, and forget the responsibility of community.
So we also seeing that. We also seeing that our people are not hiring us, on those particular sites. So you're right. I mean, I didn't know that, but that's absolutely insane. That
Yeah,
we
yeah, that's so what happens is, we have to do it's a systemic um approach that we have to have. We can't just take it as something where, okay, I'm here now. We got to realize that it's been, you know, two, three hundreds of years, within the last like 100 years or so, where, prior when we were working for free, we were the skills persons. And then
right.
after that, once we went into, you know, uh, integrating and stuff like that, then the unions formed and then we were kept out.
Right.
So we have to look at that system is a system that we have to, work and challenge. But they calling me inside now,
Okay.
so I'm gonna
All right.
pass the phone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave. We appreciate you.
Hi, how are you? My name
Hello.
is Jana Williams, and I'm with Vet for You. We have an office that helps veterans in partnership with the city of Newark in room B13. So please let veterans know they can come file a claim for their comp and pension, disability, any burial benefits, if they need help going back to school, if they're interested in obtaining a job or going into trades. Please make sure you come to Newark City Hall, room B13. Reach out to info at V as in Victor, E as in Arabic, T as in Tom, the number 4, the letter U.org for more information.
And this is at City Hall, you said?
Yes, Newark City Hall, room B13 on the first floor.
Okay. And what's your name again?
No problem. Jana Williams, and the nonprofit is Vet for You in partnership with the city of Newark.
Are you the director of the office?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Williams. We appreciate you coming through.
No problem.
We'd
And I'm
like to
going to,
we'd love to have you come back on and have a larger conversation with you about that. You know,
please, I would love to. I have a lot to talk about. I'm a veteran myself, disabled veteran. So I would accredited veteran service officer. So I would love to talk about the
and,
benefits.
and let me just ask you, because I know Roundtree was trying to get that office established. How long have you been down in City Hall? How long have you had that office
So
open?
it's less than a year. We're still trying to get it some of the kinks out, but we're in partnership with the state there. So you have the state as well as my nonprofit there.
Okay. And what's the website again?
So it's www.vetforyou.org, but they can email me at info@vetforyou.org. And it's V as in Victor, E as in Eric, T as in Tom, the number 4, the letter U.org.
Okay, great. So we
Yes,
definitely look forward. We definitely going to tell Roundtree to bring you back so we can have a larger conversation. Thank you.
no problem. So right now I'm going to introduce Council President Crump. He's going to get on and talk about the services that he provides to the city of
All right.
Newark.
Good
So,
afternoon. Good evening. Good
It
evening.
is about time,
I,
sir.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming. But I'm so glad to be on here today.
yeah,
You see?
that's the way we got to get you on, huh?
Yes,
Gotta,
yes,
gotta
yes.
corner him. Gotta corner him.
Next time, someplace where I can sit down and actually think and have a great conversation with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, and Crump, we're gonna hold you to that, right? You
No,
shouldn't have said.
I'm there. I'm there. We pick a good date and I'm there.
All right, sounds good. So what's going
Mhm.
on tonight, man?
So tonight it's a women's and men's meeting, a combination of the two meetings together. Both these meetings talk about how we can promote economic development with individually, collectively in our community, whether it's through building, whether it's through employment, combination of the two, and working with other organizations. Tonight, we're here with the Port Authority of New Jersey, providing information on how folks can get in and get on the ground floor of what's going on in terms of development, particularly the AirTran that's coming to North. I think it's extremely important on a number of fronts that we do this and continue to do in the community to provide the resources and the opening the doors for folks from our community to get in those doors to learn to learn not the trade but learn what what the policies are, what the procedures are to get these positions. Because a lot of times we have folks that have the capacity to do it, but for whatever reason may get disqualified from the process because they didn't follow it the way that it's supposed to be done legally. And so it's important that we do these meetings. I know myself, I had a similar meeting with New Jersey Transit, and they came in last couple months ago at William Ashby. They had over 200 folks from the community come and learn about the different projects that are going on with the Port Authority and providing for the New Jersey Transit and making sure that they have the information so that when they bid properly and that they bid can be, accepted. And then hopefully, and in some categories, we've already seen it, particularly smaller developers or smaller businesses that have been hired for, and not just for development or for construction, but there are other things that are necessary in some of these companies, such as um, photography, catering, a lot of other smaller development, even as much as printing and things like that. So those are important things that we can do to help in our community. I'm talking on and on, but also I would say University Hospital is a wonderful partner with the city of North. In each ward, they've had supplier series events. Well, there's still a couple more coming up, but one in the north and one in the central coming up. And that not only do they provide information on how to bid with the University Hospital, but also how to be a state contractor, how to get it and be a state contractor, which a lot of people don't know. The secret about that is that when you have a state contract, when you've done the proper paperwork with the state, there isn't have to be the formal bid process that goes on and you see with the RFQs, request for qualifications and request for proposals. All you have to do is be on the list, and cities can just choose you from that list because you've already been vetted. So there are a lot of opportunities that we're trying to do in the city, whether it's through the mayor's office, through the council's office, through great partners that we have to make sure that that we provide opportunities.
Now, one of the major issues, Crump, has always been, trying to get the brothers to, or even the sisters, brothers and sisters to come together. Because as you know, funding is always a big problem, right?
Yes.
Trying to make sure that we can get the loans or get the
Mhm.
funding so that we can compete for those type of contracts. What are we doing in terms of trying to make sure that those brothers and sisters can get the funding so that they can compete for those contracts?
So, several things are going on. Number one is in the men's meetings and the women's meetings, we talk about collaboration because one person may not, or one business may not be able to handle the opportunity. It may take a couple of businesses together working together, and that's so important. A lot of people think they can do it on their own, and they can't. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that you need assistance to work with. I think we also have business development like Invest North that helps organizations, companies uh, find resources financially and otherwise. I was at a ribbon cutting this morning for Harlem Cycling, and they did a great job at Invest North about supporting this organization, finding them the financial resources necessary and also the space necessary. One of the things I say about Invest North is it's not just about investing in brick and mortar. They invest in people and
Mm.
people that are really committed to the city, committed to the residents and opening businesses that not only benefit themselves, but as a business, you should be. There's nothing wrong with that. But they're also hiring folks from our community and keeping the money, economically within the city, within the residents.
Yeah, that's absolutely key, because that's always been one of the things, right? It's always been about, the thing the deputy mayor Muhammad talks about has always been about capacity, right?
Hmm.
There may be an opportunity, Councilman Trump, but the problem has always been, do we have the capacity, right? To be able to, if we get that opportunity, do we have the manpower? Do we have the qualifications? And if we don't have that, are we willing to partner with somebody in order to be able to get that contract so that we can? But here's the other problem. I didn't even know this existed. Dave Muhammad said the problem on the other side of that is a lot of times when we get those contracts, we're not even hiring our own people on for those opportunities. I didn't even know that was a problem. So it seems that we've got to be able to figure out how do we help that too, because we want to make sure that all of those brothers and sisters, not only one, get the training, two, get the funding, but even if you don't have the capacity, being able to partner with other people so that we can get those contracts and so that we can hire these young brothers and sisters. Because I don't know if you remember, there was an issue going on back in the day when Street was here, and he was saying that all of the sites he would visit, when we would compete, one, we wouldn't get them, but two, the jobs we were on were basically other people who didn't look like us. And of course, what I just learned talking to before you got on, Dave Muhammad, he was saying there was some extenuating circumstances around that. And so now I know that it was even some of our people. We've got to work through all of those issues, because even if there's $3.2 billion that the Port Authority said we can compete for, and like Dave just said, we get 21% of that, that's $700 million. The problem is that we need to make sure that we're in position and ready to go without being held up. Because Dave said if we get there late, other people can get there on time and we can lose that opportunity.
That's an unfortunate part of the circumstance. We have to make sure that our people are trained, our people understand professionalism, and understand that at times, I was taught to be on time is to be late.
Yeah,
You get there early. So
right,
and if I'm late, something went horribly wrong
right,
anytime. Or to be professional. If you see me, and you all know me, you see me in a suit all the time. I'm
right,
dressed professionally. The expression was dress for the job you want, not the job you have.
right,
And so I promote that everywhere I go, and when I speak to people, when I speak at meetings and organizations, even in my office, I get on my staff sometimes. You got jeans on. What jeans on? No. You never know what meeting I'm going to ask you to come to or where you're going to represent me. So
right,
always be professional.
right, right,
Aside from that, you also do, we also make sure that we have to train people for the jobs, not necessarily today, but the jobs that are coming to.
right,
We talk a lot about Lionsgate. We want to make sure that we have the opportunities and jobs. Our people are trained and ready to step into those jobs, because you hear this from the union and from others at times, but we don't have anybody. There's nobody there.
right,
So we don't want to have that as an excuse going forward. We want to make sure, and that's what a lot of goes on here in City Hall with the administration and the council, is making sure that we train people for jobs that are here and jobs that are going to be here. And
yeah,
we're going to continue to do that. I think that's critical because, and like I just said, at the end of the day, you don't want to hear that.
yeah,
So we looked out there, but we couldn't find anybody.
yeah,
And I want to say, look, there's somebody here to your left, somebody here to your right, and then we're gonna, and you can hire them. So I don't want to hear any excuses.
yeah, yeah. No, you absolutely right, because that's what Deputy Mayor Muhammad said. He was talking about the grant that he just got around AI. And he was saying that we need to be able to make sure that we train these young people, right? So that they're able to compete for those jobs, because he was saying he's just playing around with AI, but we need to be training for,
Yes.
for the future around AI, right? So
Multi-billion-dollar business.
yeah, right. And so he was saying that he just got the grant, but that we've got to be able. But here's the problem, and I didn't even know this was a problem. He said that he's trying to find the people who are qualified to be able to teach our young people AI. I'm like, wow, that's amazing, right? We don't yet have enough qualified brothers and sisters who know AI that we can bring in to teach them. Because Rock was saying he's just playing around. But we need to be able to find people who come in and teach that to people in our community, because, like you just said, that is the future, right? And it is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and that is exactly where the market is going, right?
You're
It's going
absolutely right. Mhm.
right. And so if we have that adage, when we talk about Newark, wherever Newark is going, that's where the world is going, right? So
Yes.
we've got to be able to be in that game. I mean, I think this is absolutely brilliant, but I think that, on my end, I think that, we've got to, like y'all doing tonight is great, but I think that we've got to get out there and really get these young people involved and make sure they're taking advantage of what you all are making available. Because it isn't nothing if we can't get them to come to the program. All they want to do is come to the council and complain. But we got all of this available.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely 100% right. It, we sometimes are behind, in moving forward. With coding, that was a big thing. A lot of kids were into coding these small little things for, their video games, etc. But that
Right,
could turn into such a larger, we've seen a number of people, small individuals, young kids, make hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars off of coding,
right,
off of other through AI, AI earlier on, and through the internet, and do all these different things that we need to not only catch up, but also make sure our kids are getting the knowledge and information.
right.
I joke, it's too late for me, but I got my
Yeah,
wife doing Chat GPT, and I don't even know what that means really,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
trying to learn now, but it's
Right,
so important that we get our kids involved now, not just
right,
playing video games, but
right.
actually doing other things. Learning how to make video games, learning with AI how to
Yeah,
build these reels and videos and
absolutely.
all that, and the Chat GPT with all the knowledge, or
Yeah,
that comes from that. So I'm
yeah,
pushing my kids. I got a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old, and
right,
I'm like, yeah, we're not just we play chess. Yes,
right.
it's video games, but then we also look. You go into coding classes. You're going to these
Yeah,
classes. You're going to
yeah,
understand how to
yeah,
do it. You may not want to do it, but you're going to know how, because at the
yeah.
what is the expression? Yeah, you want to be ready. You want to stay ready to be ready. I'm saying it wrong, but you know what I mean.
know what
You
you're
Oh
want
yeah,
to you want to have the knowledge and information so that when an opportunity
yeah,
presents itself, you're ready
yeah.
to jump on it.
That's right. And actually, one of the requirements to learn AI is to know Chat GPT. I didn't
Yeah.
even know. I just recently found that out. I was like, wait a minute, that's a requirement? Yes. Right. And so and all of that leads into other careers. I didn't know that. I learned this kind of stuff talking to Al Tariq and talking to Rock. I'm like, wow. So but again, we've got to make sure that we're getting, you know, our community involved and getting them involved early, because that's where the work environment is going, right? That's where they're fastly moving to. So we've got to be able to do that. And at the same time, we've got to make sure that those opportunities these young people in our community are taking full advantage of, right?
Yes. And
Meaning that not only are they qualified, but two, that they're not doing what Brother Dave Muhammad said they're doing. They're not showing up on time for the interview or showing up on time for the opportunity, right? We want to get you trained, yeah, but we need to also talk about
Ready.
how do we make sure you get there on time.
Right.
Absolutely. So critical.
Yeah,
And we have to partner with those organizations or I should say, higher education institutions out here. NJIT has great programs with the city of North. We got to push them more. Essex County College, Rutgers, they're all willing and want to help us to do more. We just
yeah,
got to push them and get on board and say, this is what we're going to do. We need you to get your people who, as you were saying, uh, Dave Muhammad was saying, we're finding people, it's difficult finding people to teach it. Let's grab some folks from NJIT or let's get our people to NJIT
there
to
it is.
get that. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's cool.
that's what Rock was saying. Rock said that he was trying. The issue for him has been, yeah, we got the grant, but I'm having trouble finding the people to teach it, right?
Yeah.
Trying to get the right people so we can teach these young people. Because he said, I can't. I'm just playing. I'm gonna teach you what I'm playing with. I don't really. I'm experimenting. I'm playing with what you see on my Facebook page or what you see posted. But there are people who can really teach that so that we can be qualified. And if that's the problem, I think you're right. We need to be at NJIT or if it's Rutgers or if it's NYU, wherever these people are, we need to be able to find these folks and have them come into the city and then be able to train our young people so they qualify. Listen, I want to learn how to do AI because I mean I'm not lazy, but I'm willing to learn new things,
Absolutely.
and that just looks like something I want to learn, and I'm not going to run away from it because I want to make sure that if I'm telling young people to do it, I want to try to be an example.
Yeah.
Yep. But Larry, we
100%.
appreciate you, man, taking time, to
No,
come on,
absolutely.
and
And whenever you want me back on, as long as I can, I'll be back on.
yeah,
I'm saying it
and
live and in public, so
that's right. That's right. And when you come back on, Zaire gonna ask you all them questions we've been holding up on asking you ever
All right.
since Mom went home to be with the Lord.
Well,
We got
yeah.
a lot of
Yes,
questions
Mom.
to ask, man.
Yeah, well, I'm open and willing to have that dialogue. Definitely.
So we'll get to that to you. All right, listen, man. We love you. We appreciate you, my brother.
Love y'all too and appreciate all that you do for us in our community.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. I'm gonna turn it back over to the councilwoman.
Yes,
Ready.
sir. All right, brother.
All right. Thanks a
All right.
Now
lot. Take care.
look at what God did. I came on and two of my
Look
co-hosts
at what
Ain't that
Roundtree
didn't
did.
something?
be with us. And
Yeah,
did I not give y'all? Did I not
you
give y'all
did.
a show? Did I not? Did the Lord
Yeah.
not provide for me to have guests on here? I had to take the show back from Larry because he'd have carried out the whole hour with y'all because y'all had a lot to talk to the president about. I'm on my way to another meeting. I've already been on stage to welcome the women to
Wow.
this. Um, well, that's why I lined up the guests. So I was
Yeah.
able to let David Muhammad, my cousin Jana, who runs the Veterans Office with me, and I have my staff here, Humberto, who's taking the database. Humberto, say hello to everybody. This is my new legislative aide. And then my other legislative aide is Pastor Latanya Copeland, and she's here taking in. Look at the phone, Tammy. Tammy. Yes. This is Pastor Latanya. Hello, my darling. Pastor Latanya Copeland. And she's here making sure that my data is, I don't do no meetings where people don't take no names. We take names. Y'all take names and ask questions later. I take names so I don't have to ask no questions. I got my data. Anyway, I
Yeah.
guess that makes a little sense.
Yes, man. We
Um,
understand.
yes, so, all right. So let's see. There's a
But
lot going on.
Hey, Roundtree, you did a good. Hey, Roundtree, you had good guests tonight
Yes.
Heard you.
for a prompt show. You had great guests. Yeah.
See, hey, baby. You know what? because God will always
Provide.
provide when
That's
you're
right.
on the right path for the right reasons. If
That's
God
right.
gave you an assignment, He's going to make sure you have everything you need for the assignment. The problem is we hear God, but we don't listen to God. Hello,
That's right.
everybody. Yes, we hear God, but we don't listen. But you know when you get blessed when you hear Him and listen. Because if you hear him and you listen, then that means that you're going to be obedient to
Yes,
the
ma'am.
path that has
Yes,
been set for you by the universe, by the spirit, by your ancestors. Come on here, somebody.
yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I walk into the willingness and the obedience of the higher power, which has called all of us to an assignment. I
Yeah.
walk in it. At this
Yeah.
age, I am not sitting on the sidelines waiting for you to direct me. Not you.
Yeah.
Now I might walk with you, but my guidance comes from a different place.
Yes,
And
Yeah.
ma'am.
I don't expect that. How can I put it? Um, that's not everybody's way. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I can't impose on you what God has given me or expect you to be who I am. I got mine and you got yours. Some things we should be doing collectively as a community and collaborating, and some things God wants us to make sure that we handle for ourselves so we can be better for the community. Ain't that right?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Absolutely.
So,
But Roundtree, I gotta tell you, I get tired looking at you sometimes. You know, I just don't know where you get that energy from. I really don't.
I'm
You
trying to
know.
fix my phone, guys. Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you a little story. When I was at the mansion as a little girl, I had to plug the phone in for a minute. When I was a little girl at the mansion, uh, my mother had the long driveway, which is now stairs, and those stairs, uh, which was a driveway, a circular driveway, when they would get ready to take me to an amusement park as a little child, before the driveway, are we there yet? That was before the movie even came out.
Right.
So they would take me to a local park to let me run a little bit to try to tire me out so that I'd be okay for a ride for an hour.
Right. Right.
Energy has always been my portion. Now my mother had a soda machine and I became, you can be addicted to chicken, rice, collard greens, and some other things I won't name,
And
but
this and the soda machine was in the in
Man.
inside the beauty salon.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And you know, I would beg my mother for Pepsi Cola. And there are people living today that say, I believe you still got some Pepsi in your veins. But
Wow.
but but I love the fact that I do have the energy, and as long as God gives me the energy, the assignment we have, Baba and Brother Ed, God is giving. If God gives you what you need to fulfill it, you better use it,
Yes, ma'am.
because that doesn't mean you're going to always have it. They say if you don't use some stuff, you'll lose it. Well, I don't believe some things that if you have a gift to sing, whether you use your voice or not, you might not be able to use it the way you probably could use it by not exercising it. But if you know how to hold a note, I don't believe you're going to forget how to hold that note unless Alzheimer's or dementia sets in. I don't believe you lose it. I just believe some things have to be reactivated. And I'm saying that to say for even in our community, the caring portion, the compassion portion, the unity portion, the portion that if you say you are a leader or a public servant, that this is the sentences do not start off with I. Even though there's an I
Hey.
in leadership,
Yes,
even
ma'am.
though it doesn't, even though there's no I in leadership, the truth, I mean, there is I in the spelling of leadership. There is no I in leadership per se, because when you start up a center with I, and you have a body of people that you are potentially leading, then that means it's got to be a we. It's got to be a us in your presentation. So when I'm sitting with groups of people, that I piece sort of gets to me because I then automatically say that's personal. That's your opinion. That's how you feel. That's how you think. But let's talk about when I open my mouth and I say we, I've incorporated everybody in the room, Brother Ed, Brother Baba, because we're all going to have different perspectives on how community should go, on what we think about religion. Yeah, that's personal. But the truth of the matter is the community, it can be personal, but it's got to be collective. We cannot be leaders in a community and not and hold against you what you honor in religion. Community is about the people.
Right.
Always will be and always has been.
Right.
And when and so I'm honored that there is a show called The Disciples, and I'm honored for the future that I'll talk about the other thing later on. I'm not going to talk about it tonight. So when I talk about it, I'm going to give you the information because I probably will have already done tapings by the time the next show airs. But I
Mhm.
just want to say this: it is necessary. There are not enough outlets for our community. Yeah, we got social media, but are we looking at facts? Are we gathering information to help our community? We as a people don't have enough outlets. There used to be WNJR, WWIL,
Absolutely.
WLIB, BET. We had all of these, and there still is BET. But now you got so many um, situation comedies and where is it? TV One. You got to go back now and look at Roland Martin in another way. We don't have these outlets. Used to be able to turn on WNJ and hear my godmother Kitty Taylor at 6 in the morning or 10 at night, hear Bernice Bass. Or you'd be able, and
Bad.
people would not literally do this. They would
Yep.
be on. There
Yep.
was a designated time for spiritual and a designated time for jazz. WBGO is about all we have left on that order, unless you go to satellite. But what do we own in our community to get this information out? So that's why, after all these years, I'm taking advantage of the opportunity to share information with the community about the laws of Social Security. It's different things about your health benefits. We got to inform our people
Yeah.
and consistently. We can't meet with them once a year and say, here, this is the new law, and don't come back until something changes, because somebody might not have been there that one time, which is why I appreciate, again, all politics are local. Because,
But
Brother
you,
Ed, what you do is you bring people on that can inform. You bring people on, that can let people know what's really going on in various areas. The issue is how many people take the information and share it.
yeah. But you know what though, Roundtree? I think man, I know Zayed and I agree with everything you said, but I think that is why you make an excellent councilwoman at large, right? Because one is not only your concern about everybody, right? But one of the things I said about you to, and I'm gonna tell you this. I said this about you to Bashir recently. I said, Roundtree is the real deal. She ain't, Roundtree. She can handle her own weight. Because she's real. Roundtree. You've been in the thick of the mud and mire. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and
And
had
and
parents, had
and you
parents,
and you and
parents
you
that,
Bred for
and,
this. He was
and
bred for this.
Roundtree, you got the receipts,
and I
right?
sure do.
You
I
know,
sure
and
do.
and and that's why,
I sure do.
for me, nobody can come from Roundtree. Y'all can come for everybody else. I don't think y'all can come from Roundtree. So I
They
think that if
wait a
you
minute, but then I got to tell them, don't come for me if I didn't send for you. If they just so happen to
that's right.
try,
Look, you sit for it. Yeah. And
If I didn't
and
send for you, don't
yeah,
come now. Come on here.
yeah, yeah. Because and the truth is, Roundtree, and that's why I tell you that nobody can keep up with you because you show up everywhere, and I'm like, at the end of the day, you need to train everybody else how to be, an at large person.
Multitasker that you is. Yes, right.
Yeah,
So
train.
watch this. Watch this,
You want to
guys.
learn?
Somebody
Watch that.
watch
Watch
this.
Roundtree.
Wait a minute. Watch this. So somebody asked me about 10 years ago. They was like, you need to train somebody to do what you do. And you know what I told them? I said, I can train anybody to do what I do, but the only thing I cannot train them to do is be me.
Yeah, Yeah, that's right.
And see, therein lies the challenge of people watching you and trying to emulate you. But if they're not you, they don't know deep down inside what God has put in them for them to fulfill uh, that assignment with the right attitude, with the right, like, what is your motive? What is your
That's
agenda?
everybody.
Is it really the people? Or are
That's
you
right.
just trying to set yourself on a pedestal? Like I tell folks all the time, they're like, oh, I didn't know you were such and such a place. I said, because it wasn't on channel 2. You weren't supposed to know.
Right,
Okay. I
right.
mean, it wasn't meant to be a conference call. It was meant to be a personal call. So when you deal with families in very sensitive situations, or even um, even great situations, celebrations, and I don't run around here. I put stuff on social media. I have so much stuff that has never even made social media, but it can only be positive. I got stuff that people have given me for the work I've done on behalf of the people, and they're like, "Why you don't put it on social media? You got this award." Every now and then I'll post it, but the truth of the matter is, the work ain't about the award. The work is
That's
about the people. So I'm not posting to get 600 likes because somebody decided to think of me. The people that gave it to me get to hear me say, baby, this is not because of me. That's because of you and the work that God allowed me to do for people. And if more community minded leaders would just try to stay in that moment,
Yeah,
because we are easily distracted. We're easily distracted. It's easy to lose focus. But if you really stay focused to what leadership is about, I tell folks at City Hall, number one in leadership is Raz Baraka. You are not number one. He is the mayor.
yeah,
Even though I'm the councilwoman, the mayor. Now, that's on the second floor. On the third floor, in my office, I'm number one.
yeah. Right,
Okay?
right.
The 5 staff members I have can't go to the mayor and ask for direction. I might go and ask to make sure that I'm in line with the leader and not jumping ahead of them. And it's so the leader goes to lead the people, the person that's working with the leader on any level, especially, and people don't always agree with that because some folks don't want to follow no leadership. They think they're the best leaders. Watch this. They think they're the best leaders when they got no followers,
Yep,
right?
yep.
And I tell folks that statement you'll often hear me make. I don't know where I got it from years ago, but if you're a leader and nobody's following you, you're just taking a walk, right? So, I mean,
yes, ma'am.
I'm just saying.
Uh,
So,
but
we
you,
got a
but you,
lot
but
going
you,
on.
but again, Roundtree. Let me just say, you are the council. You are the councilwoman at large, councilwoman. You can teach this thing, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because nobody. I mean, I'm telling you, Roundtree. You know. I think you found your calling. You know what I mean? You know.
I
I mean,
believe the people, the Lord has given me the people. That that's 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 it. That's it. God has
Yeah,
given me.
and I
God has given
absolutely
me.
agree. I absolutely agree, Roundtree. You blessed in that position, but I've got to say, you were from the moment you've been, producing producing the disciples on all politics are local. I can tell you that you take the show with you. You do promptu things. We don't travel with you all over the city, all in and out of the thing. I mean, I mean, we've had an incredible journey, you know. And,
Yes. Yeah.
and Roundtree, check this out, Roundtree, and you don't complain, you know.
No, sir.
You just make it
Because I have
happen.
an assignment. I have an assignment. And if all politics are local, then everything I do local at some point. Like you see people on the set, and you see when it snows, the weatherman he's not in there showing you on the screen. Sometimes they out there in the snow, telling you live what's going on. So you went to the men's
That's
meeting
true.
tonight. Normally
That's
you normally
and Roundtree. That's true. You did that the other night when it was snowing, right?
I
Yeah.
know.
You was out there and you took us with you. And somebody called you for food, and we got to tell you don't go back out.
I remember.
That's
I remember.
what
Well,
I'm trying
we've
to tell
got
you.
some things. We've
That's
got
what
some
I'm.
things coming up. we got some things coming up. I don't see Jonathan on, so I'm blessed tonight.
Yeah.
We have an expungement clinic coming on January 28th. We have uh, a cervical and mammogram free screening on January 28th at Cityplex from 9 to 3. Get your cervical screening or your mammogram or both for early detection. Myself, Congresswoman LaMonica McIver, I've added Amina Bay to this. I've been doing this now for quite a few years with Congresswoman and when she was Councilwoman LaMonica, because we had to take on the assignment once we got the mobile unit to share with the community. Come on, get your stuff checked. We are also doing an expungement clinic that I am working with Assemblywoman Cleopatra Tucker. She's spearheading. We'll have the expungement clinic the same day. January 28th. I need you to call my office, those who are watching live, 973-733-3794. The expungement clinic will be held at the Temple of Hip Hop, 55 Ludlow Street, Newark, New Jersey. We have got to be on point with all things that concern our community. Tonight at the men's meeting, they're talking about contracts. They have representatives from the Port Authority. The mayor arrived, he's there. I probably would have put him on the show if I wasn't walking out the door to go to another meeting. And I just arrived at 7 o'clock. He'd have been my last guest.
Give me number again, Roger.
Excuse me?
Give-
973-733-3794. And I'm going to give you guys the flyers as soon as I get situated in the meeting that I'm going into right now.
Yeah, Roundtree. That expungement clinic is very important, Roundtree. We definitely need to get.
That's right. You can't
Yeah,
tell me. Listen, I've had all types of situations where people have gone to jail for. Now you can sell it free, and they still sitting in jail. 6 bags, whatever. I don't know what they call them these days. But yeah, I'm really big on helping individuals. This might be about my eighth expungement. People want to talk to me about cannabis. That's what I want you to talk about. What you going to sow into our community? Help us help these people clear their records. I don't even want to talk. Ain't nothing to talk about. But you're
yeah.
going to give back to the community. Yeah, put some
So
money into some lawyers helping these people.
so the number to the office where they can call Roundtree is 973
Not
733
3794. 973 733 3794.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Send us the flyer, Roundtree, because
I'm
we
gonna
really want to
I'm gonna
promote.
send you the flyer as soon as I get into this meeting I'm going into. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the All Politics and Local Television Show. Say good evening, everyone. You're now at the Good Neighbor Baptist Church, where I have to go into a meeting. Thank you for allowing me the time on the show tonight. All Politics and Local, Brother Ed Riley. I'm
Yep.
actually going off at 7:06, 6 minutes late. But
And this is the disciples that
this is the
Roundtree
shit.
held it up tonight by herself with some incredible guests. We thank you, Roundtree.
I love you all. Thank you for the opportunity
Love
once
you.
again to the best mayor on this side of heaven. We know that in May, we got a special time coming up. And we know that the enemy's busy and is on attack. But thank you, Brother Ed. Thank
Yep.
you, Brother Brother Baba Saeed, for holding the sister down. We miss you, Lady Ali. We miss you, Minister Abdul Haq Muhammad. We're praying for your wellness. And we pray that if there's a storm on the way, that God will still keep us each and every day. Once again, be safe, be warm, power to the people. Assalamu alaikum. Grace and peace be unto you from God our Father. And may God forever bless all politics are local and its guests. Love
Well,
you
thank you,
guys.
Roundtree. And God bless you. All right,
Thank you.
Roundtree.
All
Love you.
right. Love you too.
All right. Man, let me tell you something. Right, whenever we work with Roundtree, man, I'm telling you, Roundtree works so hard, man. She makes me tired. You know what I mean?
He's an army of
But,
one.
I'm telling you, Zaid. Let me tell you something, man. If you're gonna be a council person or a councilwoman, men at large, woman, man, let me tell you something. you need to stand your flag up next to hers. And if you can't do that, you need to rethink that, brother.
That's
you
right.
know, because she working it, brother. So
Definitely.
listen, Zaid, I see some of the folks in the background.
Should be Renee. Oh, we got this. We got add trust. Renee, why are you hiding? Come on camera, daughter.
You know,
This is your segment. This is your segment.
but it's not my
I
segment.
am
It is
building around you.
Brian's
Don't talk that
segment.
on me.
I'm on the run. I'm on the run, but
Well,
I'm
if you
here.
don't
I'm
want to
here.
Police, I don't even want to hear it. Everybody is. I want to. Well, this is a segment. We're looking forward to a book event for a new contribution to the historiography of a great but unsung Black radical scholar who was the late Hubert Henry Harrison. We have with us Trust Graham from African Echoes, have with us Renee Johnston, who was one of the organizers for the event, and we have the scholar who is responsible for this new contribution to this work. Brian, you're a pleasant surprise to have you with us tonight, young soldier. We really appreciate having you.
Thank you so much for being here. I wish I could stay longer. I'm gonna have to go in about 20 minutes, but
let's jump right into it. Before I come to you, Brian, I wanted to introduce Trust, because Trust, I think this is your first time on the show with us, right?
Yes, sir.
And some years ago, and it's been hard to believe, it's been quite a few years now, right? African Echoes, who was one of the premier Black thought spaces in this part of the country, had Jeffrey Perry come into Newark, and Jeffrey Perry started that ball of historiography rolling. And I want to appreciate that. I'm talking about a very, very Black space, and this was the first and probably the only white exception that we had, right? Right. And Perry knocked it out of the park with the work that he did. So, Trust, I want you to take us back on that part of the ledge that is what Jeffrey Perry brought to this conversation about this great scholar that we're jumping with Brian.
Okay. First, I want to thank All Politics is Local for this opportunity to be with you today. I also want to thank all of the featured guests that are going to be featured this evening. And most of all, I want to give thanks and praise to our dear brother, Zaid, who was a hard worker for the struggle that goes back many, many, many years. Hubert Harrison, a great personality, first introduced to him, to me by Dr. John Henry Clark. John Henry Clark give lectures and always referred to Hubert Henry Harrison as one of his glowing mentors that literally influenced his thinking through people like John G. Jackson and people like Richard B. Moore, a whole bunch of individuals during that particular era that were scholars and intellectuals that influenced the day. My particular contact from that literally led me to search for Hubert Harrison, because Dr. Clark would always say that he was the greatest mind and the greatest scholar of his day that nobody knew. And for me, that was a very, very, moving particular statement, because it was a time and a period when, guys like Claude McKay and, Langston Hughes and W.E.B. Du Bois and, Monroe Trotter, all of these people lived during that time. And they were talking about this individual in such glowing terms that, it warranted me to go out and do a little bit background research, to the point where that it led me to do research for about 11 years. But I ran into, in that process of doing that research, I ran into a gentleman who had already laid the groundwork for some of that research, which was Jeffrey Perry. I got in contact with him doing some research at the Schomburg Library, And in some of the background material, his name came up doing some essays for, some particular reference books that I was doing research in. And it took me about a year and a half to contact Jeff, and found out that Jeff had wrote his dissertation on Dr. Harrison. So I followed that up, got the dissertation, and then eventually, got in contact with Jeff. That was in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yes,
and at that time, he was just getting into writing the Hubert Henry Harrison papers, which he had confiscated from the family of Hubert Henry Harrison, because they had literally went on deaf ears by the Schomburg Library and a few other particular institutions. And eventually they would end up with Jeff eventually organizing all of the papers and everything. And eventually they would end up at Columbia University. As you know, Jeff did extensive work. He wrote 3 major publications, the Hubert Henry Harrison papers. He wrote, the biography, 2 volumes, and a variety of different articles and, approaches that he did at Columbia, as well as, in the community. He was one of the guys that I really, admired, because, in our community, the organization that I was with, it was 100% pro-Black and African 100%. We never allowed Europeans in our particular midst, and that was for cultural reasons specifically. And when the research was completely done, after I had ran into Jeff, and we sat down and we really went through I found he was just like one of us, in the struggle, and some of the things that he was talking about, his areas of focus in union organizing, in the postal service. It was just amazing. So, that just gives you at least a background in regard to my particular personal involvement, and then my organization inviting Jeff to come and speak for us a couple of times, that literally was outstanding in so many different ways. And the thing that gets me more than anything is the role that he played in the intellectual foundation of what we would today call the Harlem Renaissance is beyond comparable. And there's a very few individuals of that day that didn't know him or understand his influence in regard to the struggle, the New Negro movement, the whole issue of anti-lynching, worked with people like Marvin Sanger and so many other individuals of that day, in order to bring about change for the Black community. So I'll leave it up to the young brother that's coming up. I'm looking forward to seeing your book. I'm looking forward to, seeing new information brought into the scene. And, believe me, right now we need all we can get. Believe that, because we are onslaught from the powers at be. And we need strong warriors that's going to stand up and take the bull by the horns and deal with it accordingly. So I just wanted to lay that groundwork and give you some insight from my particular point of view. Thank you, brother.
And that's how we got to do that. Got to, those are community elders.
I can't hear you, Zaid.
No, Brian, can you hear me? Okay, now Brian, you're on mute.
Yes, I can hear you.
Brian, that's one of your community elders, giving the foundation for your conversation, for your work.
Yes.
And so I want you to just jump in with a few minutes that we do have with you.
Okay.
How did you come upon the need to take this dive into the legacy of Hubert Harrison? This is radical stuff. You could get in trouble with this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Zaid, for hosting me, and thanks to Renee for inviting me as well, and to Trust for that great introduction and background. I got into Harrison. I met Jeff Perry. I believe it was at the Left Forum in New York, back when his first volume of his biography came out. So it would have been 2009, maybe 2010, somewhere there. And I got that volume. I read it, and I was fascinated by Hubert Harrison, because here's this pioneering Black socialist, that I'd never heard of, but that nobody else had heard of either. And so that sort of set me down the path to study Harrison, both for myself, but also for the benefit of others. And so I always give a massive shout out to Jeff Perry for introducing me to Harrison and for sort of sparking the fire for learning more about him that remains within me. At the same time, I'm building on Perry's work, but also taking Harrison into new dimensions that Perry didn't really cover in his work. So, for example, Harrison has I wrote a whole chapter called Black Free Love Politics and the Queer New Negro, because Harrison, like many others in the Harlem of the 1910s and 20s and 30s, was linking the struggle for political liberation, economic liberation, and sexual liberation. This is, I think, one of the most generous.
Hold up. I'm going to tell you something. I grew up in the 1970s. And folks, that generation, we did a lot of things hard that we probably shouldn't have done. Up to our elders, all right?
Mm-hmm.
But you would think, coming out of the 60s, that free love came from our generation, these crazy ass baby boomers. You telling us something else.
Yeah.
Please.
So one of the things that's happening in the quote unquote Harlem Renaissance, in addition to all the artistic and cultural experimentation and all the creatives that emerge, out of that context, there's a sexual experimentation. People are experimenting with new sexualities and different ways of relating when it comes to sex and love and romance and marriage and things of that nature. Harrison, as far as I can tell, is the first Black U.S. Black figure in U.S. history to explicitly give a sex education lecture series, to denounce church and state repression of sexuality, to call for decriminalizing access to contraception, which was banned and illegal at that time, right? Mm-hmm. And to explicitly talk about the fact that, as Harrison put it, we are not monogamists by nature, but by compulsion from the church and from the state and from capitalism. And so this, I think, is a really, really fascinating area of Harrison's radicalism, because he was able to link capitalism and colonialism and white supremacy and colonization to compulsory monogamy, and seeing those as actually part of a package deal. Wherein if you want to get liberation in one area, you got to get liberation in all of them, right? No one's going to get free unless we all get free. So this is one aspect or one example of a side of Harrison that Perry doesn't really go into. I mean, he mentions it, right? He mentions that Harrison was advocating for access to contraception in a very early context, but he doesn't really go deeply into it. Another thing is Harrison's African identity. Harrison identified as an untamed, untamable African. And I find this a really generative and refreshing way for Black folks in the diaspora for us to identify, even to this day, given all the Afrophobia and anti-African racism that the Western media has been putting out even since Harrison's day, right? I mean, in Harrison's time, they put a Congolese man, Otabanga, in the monkey house section of the Bronx Zoo. Literally, they were putting Africans on display, right? So for Harrison at that time, to be identifying as an...
I got to stop you there, because we got to put a foot up. We got to put a real marker on that, what you just said about that zoo display of somebody from Congo.
Yes.
Right. And we are looking at the fleecing of the eastern wing of the Congo as nothing but a long line of gutting of that incredible rich real estate that is making everybody else in the northern hemisphere rich, but has left our people incredibly poor on top of that land. I just needed to put a pin in that.
Yeah.
I just needed to put a real pin in that, because that's in his lifetime, not far from my lifetime, did that happen. right?
Right.
And so the fallout that we are seeing in Congo now did not come out of the sky or from a bad election a couple of days ago. There's been a long line of some ugly oppression that has been that colonial experience. Going back to what you were saying, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, in Harrison's day, it was literally King Leopold's, territory.
The most destructive.
Millions were killed for rubber, just like millions are being killed today for coltan and cobalt and some of these minerals and precious, rare earth minerals. But yeah, the other thing is I really want to say briefly, and then I have to run, is Garvey and Garveyism. Harrison, I have 2 chapters in the book on Harrison's relationship to Garvey and Garveyism because Harrison had a decisive impact on the rise of Garvey and Garveyism. He literally trained Garvey when Garvey came to Harlem. He joins Harrison's Liberty League.
Right.
And it's in Harrison's Liberty League that Garvey learns things like race first, a colored internationalist politics, supporting colonized peoples all over the world, a tricolor flag, right? The red, black, and green that we associate with Garveyism comes out of the brown, black, and yellow that Harrison's Liberty League had developed as a flag for Black people and people of color. And also combining Africans and African Americans and African Caribbeans all in the same organization. That's something the Liberty League taught Garvey, right? Garvey initially wanted to build a Tuskegee-style industrial school in Jamaica. It's only when he gets to Harlem and joins Harrison's Liberty League that he reimagines the possibilities for the Universal Negro Improvement Association and takes those strategies and tactics learned from Harrison to build the UNIA into the largest organization of African people in modern history. At the same time, Garvey eventually taps Harrison to edit the Negro World, and Harrison gets an up-close and very intimate picture of Garvey's leadership and develops a critique of Garvey. Garvey's authoritarian behavior, his financial mismanagement, his dreams of an African empire over which the sun would never set. And Harrison, was an anti-imperialist, and he was someone who saw leadership as coming from the grassroots. This is why he supported the Patterson Silk Strike, for example, in 1913, Patterson, New Jersey. So Harrison ends up breaking with Garvey and developing, I think, a really powerful critique that would foreshadow some of the problems that we've seen ever since Garvey's day when it comes to the HNIC issue, right? The head Negro in charge, the experience that had with Dr. King, which taught her that we need group-centered leaders rather than leader-centered groups. And so, yeah, I'm going to have to leave you with that thought, but I really do hope people come to see me on Thursday, February 29th, the event.
January 29th. Don't go.
January. My mind is everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
My mind is everywhere. Next Thursday, that's the point, right? Next Thursday in Newark at Source of Knowledge Bookstore. And I'll also be speaking the following Monday, February 2nd at Columbia University. So yeah, I hope to see folks.
Oh, that'll be good.
Yeah, and because I'm putting Brian to work when he's in town, he's also going to be speaking at the Hub on Friday night. So I'm putting him in front of as many people as possible.
They really need you at Columbia. My God, that's a war zone. You're walking into a war zone there, son.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks again.
Thank you, Brian. We're looking forward to having you, son.
Yes, we'll talk more very soon. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right.
So Renee, jump in this conversation and
Yes, sir.
remind everybody about the important work of community movement builders and why this particular conversation and gathering lines up with you.
Like your mic is, I can't hear you.
You still having trouble? Trust is still having trouble.
The only one
Everybody else.
Yeah.
But you heard my question, right, Renee?
Yes, I did. So Community Movement Builders is a national organization that works to support the upliftment and liberation of Black people. And so one of the things that our chapter in particular in Newark is trying to work on is to work with other organizations within Newark so that we are building a coalition and working with other groups to do the things that need to be done to support the people of Newark. And in an effort to do that, we are consistently trying to do events and organize things to bring community members together and to bring information to the community members. So this is our second book talk, actually. You were also there when Brother Kahinde came in from the UK and spoke on his book on Malcolm X. And so Brian Quoba, when he comes next Thursday, will be speaking on his book on Hubert Harrison. I read his book like last summer, and I was completely unfamiliar with Hubert Harrison. And so for me, yes, outside of knowing the name,
is important. We got to say that. Absolutely.
Right. Outside of knowing the name and being familiar with the name, I didn't know very much about him. And so I read Brian's book, and I was fascinated mostly by the fact that he had been basically written out of the history, right? Like with all of the people and all of the organizations and all of the work that he did, that people don't know who he is, I think is actually evidence of how much he succeeded in what he was trying to do, right? Like, it's always the people who work the hardest who they try to write out, because they don't want those voices to be part of the history, right? They don't want it to be part of the historical knowledge. And so you write out, really these warriors and these people, who did the work. And it's a fascinating book. It really is a very different telling. It's not an autobiography of Hubert Harrison. It is actually a deeper understanding of what the work Hubert Harrison did, how it impacted the future of the Black radical tradition. It is fascinating.
You are on the point of you invisibilize of hardworking people getting invisibilized.
I swear I can't hear.
And I wish Brian could still be on. Today just happens to be the 60th anniversary of the passing of the unconquerable Paul Robeson, who went from being in his lifetime, in his prime, went from being the most popular Black man in the world to being one of the most hated in the United States. We're just within a span of a few years. And I'm a Rutgers alumni, and when I went into Rutgers, we walked right into a fight with our white overseers. You're gonna be in our community, you're gonna lift up Paul Robeson, because we ain't gonna be quiet unless that happens, and we were not quiet. And so the Robeson centers and all those places and whatnot, because we raised some hell for that. We had to back them up out of their white privilege and anti-communism addiction and all that. So this is Newark, New Jersey, right? We might not be in Princeton, but this is Newark, New Jersey. You're gonna come in this community correct, or it's gonna be a problem, right? And we're proud to have lifted him up out of obscurity, but he's another example of what you're talking about. So so thank you, right? Thank you for what you're doing. I appreciate, we did what we did together around Kahinde and what we did together for Asada. I'm very proud of what y'all are trying to do.
Sister Renee, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I cannot hear Zaid at all. I've been
trying
to get the audio in,
but you can hear me, Trust?
I can hear you, can't see you, but I can hear you.
Yes, my camera's off. Okay. Did you have a question for me specifically?
No. Matter of fact, everything you said was, up to par in retrospect. I just applaud you for, I should say, deep knee diving into Hubert Harrison. One of the things that I'm surprised is that people are surprised that they don't know him, and I think a lot of that is not just he was written out of history. He had abrasive relationships throughout his life with his own wife and many individuals, including Marcus Garvey and many individuals.
In the end,
and when he turned state evidence and stuff like that, that caused very serious problems in the neighborhood. Most of the organizations that he was in, he eventually gets out because of abrasive relationships. Him and Marcus Garvey, W.A. Domingo, what's the name, Bruce, all of these individuals, he were literally taught as well as colleagues with, and eventually have fallen outs too. So even when he and Schomburg gets together, they eventually want to take his material and put it into Schaumburg, and they won't allow it. They wouldn't allow it.
Yep.
That's why it ends up at Columbia University, because they didn't want to buy it. And it's not that just that. They did the same thing with Garvey's material. You know where Garvey's Negro Worlds are housed today? You know where they're at?
No, where are they? I actually don't.
At Harvard.
Of course.
They're at Harvard. Now, mind you, right here we have, the Schomburg Library, the most prestigious, institution for black material anywhere on earth. And his headquarters was here in Harlem, and they end up in Harvard. Tony Martin said that when all of this was falling out, jumping off, he said that the Harvard individuals decided that it would be in the best interest that his papers would be there. This is what the Harvard people said. So you know what they did. They didn't even waste time. So if you want to do studies on Marcus Garvey, you got to go to Boston.
Of course. And
Yes.
this is what happens consistently. And you're right. I should never be surprised when I learn about a black radical that I had never heard of before, because this is indeed what they do consistently. And it's just, there's so many of Hubert Harrison's take that as I was reading Brian's book, and I actually have the reader that Perry did, and I haven't started it yet, but it's on my list.
You said which one?
The Harrison reader.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, that's by Jeff Perry.
Yeah, that's Perry's, and so it's on my list. It's a long list.
Well, I suggest you do two things first, even before you read that. You can go to I would say that Source and Knowledge still has it, but Black Classic Press is the publisher of it. As you know, Harrison wrote two books. The one that is available, that most people, when Africa Awakes, is available, so you can get that.
Yes.
But The Negro in the Nation is not available. That was one of his books, but that book is a gem, because a lot of the quotes that we attribute to Malcolm, he was making those quotes, same quote, ballot or the bullet, right there during that time. Wow. And a lot of those particular issues that he had with individuals that, remember now, this is also during the beginning of the Niagara movement and all of those situations and what was going on. Because remember, even though those individuals were leading the charge, they had issues they had to deal with in their organization. That's why the Niagara movement didn't last but so long, because of infighting. A lot of infighting. And what happened, one of the biggest issues in infighting in the Niagara movement was Du Bois wanted women in the movement. And Monroe Trotter said no. That became an issue. A real big issue. And eventually, Monroe Trotter lost out. And as you know, because of that, they didn't last long. And the other thing too is that if the Niagara movement would have lasted, there would be no NAACP. Wouldn't exist. It wouldn't exist. Because we don't want to accept the fact that the NAACP is not a black organization. No matter how much you want to twist it, how much you want to say it.
I'm gonna say not this week.
I'm
in complete agreement.
That's definitely not. I know the founders of it: Mary White Ovington, Villard, Garrison.
Right.
Henry Moskowitz. Those were the individuals that started it.
Yeah.
And then they brought in.
There's some interesting information in the book also about some of the things regarding the Harlem Renaissance and what Harrison witnessed with regard to the gatekeepers of the Harlem Renaissance. There's just so much information, as it relates to how much we're not told and how much,
There's a good documentary on YouTube. It's called The Harlem Renaissance in the Underground. It's about one of the baddest jokers that ever lived. His name is Casper Holstein. He was the baddest gangster in the neighborhood. Watch that documentary, please. It's 3 hours long. It's one of the best documentaries of what I call the Renaissance that was never told. And who financed it? Who was the
Renee, tell us
individuals? Who
the
was the
title again.
movers, the shakers, the party breakers? That when you talk about Casper Holstein, when you talk about Bumpy Johnson, when you talk about Madam Stephanie Sinclair, where all that came from, how they financed, businesses and educations. How I know about Casper Holstein is not through education and through reading, it's through Dr. Ben. Because Casper Holstein was one of the individuals that got his family from St. Croix to the United States. Because Casper Holstein was also from the St. Croix, like Professor George Simmons from St. Croix. So all of these individuals became foundational, how can I say, colleagues in regard to their transportation into this country. And when we talk about the Harlem Renaissance, we got to talk about the influence of the Caribbean community that set and laid the foundation for it.
Absolutely.
It was powerful. A young sister by the name of Irma Watkins Owen, she wrote a book called The Caribbean Community, during the Harlem Renaissance 13. It's called Blood Relations. That's the name of the book, Blood Relations. It's a real serious book doing that. And then the other book you really want to read is called Holding Aloft the Banner. It's probably one of the best books ever written on the Harlem Renaissance. It's by Winston James. I happen to have it right here. This is it.
I have them all now. I have all more tabs open on my.
Yes, and what those particular books will do is that they will show you the influence of what those in it. And before I leave, because I got to get ready for my own class, but before I leave, I want to give you something else, and that is that one of the added features of this whole experience is, and I was telling Zaid, is because I have a personal involvement. My great uncle, that's my grandmother's brother, Walter Garland, was the right hand man and one of the major movers and shakers of the Communist Party during that particular time. My great uncle also was the piano player for Paul Robeson, as well as he fought in the Lincoln, Brigade for Spanish Civil War in Spain in 1939, as well as I just found out they did a short on him on YouTube, and it's called the Black Soldier, who fought fascism before World War II. The Black Soldier who fought fascism before World War II, and his name is Walter Garland. So he was a good friend with Harry Hayward, who wrote Black Bolshevik, Black Liberation. Harry Hayward was probably, when you talk socialism and communism, if you don't raise Harry Hayward's name, it's impossible.
You're definitely missing the beat.
And then a good friend of mine, Buzz Jones. Buzz was from England, and when I got into the book business, a good friend of mine, Fritz Lewis, introduced me to Buzz from England, who was a publisher. Little did I know, Buzz, his mother was Claudia Jones. Claudia Jones, which was probably one of the baddest black woman communists that life has ever seen. And people like George Patmore and those individuals, those were the relationships that established, radical politics that went on in Harlem during those particular days. And her and Paul Robeson's wife, Esmeralda, those individuals with, what's his name? I can't even, Cyril Briggs, and these individuals, Richard B. Moore, they play such a enormous role, but get very little press. How many people know about Richard B. Moore? Richard B.
Oh,
Morse had one of the first black bookstores in Harlem.
Yes, sir.
The Frederick Douglass bookstore.
Uh-huh.
They used to sell books in bags. They used to walk down the street and sell books in bags. This be Schomburg and all them.
Lisa, go on mute.
They was called the Bibliophile. They called Harrison the Black Socrates of Harlem. That's what they called him. But let me go, Saeed. It's been my pleasure. I thank y'all for this opportunity. And I will be there on Thursday, by hook or by crook, to make sure that I support the brother and his new particular, debut into this particular struggle. But most of all, to help share the name and the legacy of somebody like Hubert Harrison. I mean, to me, that's just, ice cream and cake. I just love that kind of stuff. So, again, thank you, Zaid.
Looking forward to meeting you, Trust. Thank you.
My pleasure. And again, Zaid, thank you for the march we was on this week. At least, I didn't feel too bad, Zaid, because just before I got on, I was watching Rachel Maddow, and she was showing some demonstrations in Minnesota. It's 9 below.
Yeah.
9 below. And they was out there like dirty jaws. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people out in 9 below demonstrating. So that tells you how serious the issue is.
Yes, sir.
But without further ado, I just want to thank all of y'all for doing such an excellent job, and most of all, keeping the names of these great warriors alive. I see Amilcar Cabral's material on here, and bro, that's another brother. One day we'll talk about my serious sister, Queen Nzinga, the only woman who never was killed. She died, and she whooped them goddamn Portuguese for 40 years. She whooped that ass. She's the only woman in the history of our struggle who died and came back. Let me say that again. She's the only woman in our struggle who died and came back, because the Portuguese thought they killed her. And she allowed it to happen and had a funeral and everything, and then came back and whooped that ass some more.
Yes, sir.
I love her. And
yes,
Zinga.
sir.
Peace, family. I'll see y'all again soon, and definitely on Thursday.
All right, beloved. Right. Renee, remind everybody what's the where, and the when.
Absolutely. We are going to be at Source of Knowledge in Newark on Thursday. That is January 29th. The doors open at 6, and we'll get started and have a good conversation with Brian about Hubert Harrison.
The book's located at 867 Broad Street, just across the street from the Marriott Hotel as you approach City Hall. We're looking forward to that. We got now. I don't know. Trust probably can't hear me, but I'm gonna give you the ritual question as you go out. This is your second time with us, so you should know the question I'm gonna ask you. Who are you listening to in the land of hip hop to get you amped up to do this work?
You did this to me the last time, and I told you I am not a big rap music listener. It is not my world.
It's all right.
In the Jamaican household. But I will
got
say,
a jazz background. It's all right.
I will say I recently started listening again because the theme song to the show on Saturday is the Saturdays song by De La Soul, and so I fell down a De La Soul rabbit hole the other day. So we'll go with De La Soul today.
Okay. All right. It's good to have you. I'm proud of what you're doing. We'll definitely see you Thursday.
Thank you so much, Zaid, for the time. I appreciate it.
That's right. Right on. Okay,
all right. Peace.
All right. We that Trust left, but his camera's still on. That's funny. Lisa, can you hear me? And she can't hear me either. Now we're having some tech issues. Lisa, can you hear me? You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Now we hear you.
But I'm frozen. This is a horrible background. I can't get the one up that I want.
Just go out and come back in on
Go out
and
and
if you
come
have to
back
change
in
the
again.
browser, it's okay. All right. All right, and then she does it. I'll try to intro her segment. Coming up is an appreciation of the late Claudette Colvin, incredible woman, another unsung hero in movement spaces, who just left us a few weeks ago for the land of the ancestors. 15 years old, Claudette Colvin was the first of a series of Black women who challenged the segregated busing in Montgomery, Alabama, risking her life in the process. 15 years old on March 2nd, 1955. She just couldn't get up, she said. She said, after all that Negro history that she learned about Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth and all the other warriors. Go ahead and mute, Lisa. Right? She felt Harriet Tubman holding her down on one shoulder, and she felt Sojourner Truth holding her down on the other shoulder. And she refused to get up, faced arrest, faced a beating, faced being put in an adult jail. Right? Went through a lot in that bold stand, but she was one of 4 women who protested segregated busing in Montgomery before what Rosa Parks did on December 1st, 1955, all in that same year, right? And of course, in that hot summer of that year would be the lynching of Emmett Till that rocked Black people all over this world out of their complacency and out of some of their fear, right? Claudette Colvin. Lisa was a part of a nucleus of us who brought her to Newark many years ago, not many years ago, a few years ago. And we did our own thing with her to try to revive interest and educate people into just who this incredible woman is and was, and why her contribution and sacrifice is important. Lisa, can you hear us? You okay? Is this better for you?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Horrible echo.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. Just maybe if you just turned your volume down just a touch, that might do it.
I might also. I think I'm trying to come back in on Google Chrome because this is horrible. So
Yeah,
let me
okay,
try this time.
do that, and I'm also going to try and find William. We were also supposed to be joined by a grassroots scholar, very much like our trust is, right? That was supposed to join us, who had a web page, and this is some 10 years ago or so. It had a web page that amplified what he called the backstories of our struggle during that time, and he, Lisa, and some others came across his web page, and that's how we got plugged into Claudette Colvin. We wound up bringing her to Newark several times. The People's Organization for Progress did it first. Then we brought her to I'm saying Irving. I said Newark. I should say Irvington, because at the time we also had the Popcorn Kids program, and that program we had Claudette Colvin work with our kids in the Popcorn program, and we followed her ever since. Right? She lived in the Bronx for a while, and in her last days she returned to Alabama before she left us for the land of the ancestors. It was her case, and I'm hoping Lisa can get back on it, but it was her case that ultimately got to the Supreme Court as our folks were on the verge of out organizing the segregationists in that epic boycott, 381 days. There were court fights at the same time, right? There was a court fight over the legality of whether or not our folks could legally do the boycott, right? and the local courts, of course, ruled against that, right? But then the case that went to the upper courts, and then they'd appreciate this because you're the lawyer in the house, the Browder v. Yale case, where the names and the cases of some of those women, including Claudette's case, that's the one that got to the Supreme Court. Rosa Parks' case didn't move that far. It was the Browder case that included Claudette as one of the plaintiffs in that case that got to the Supreme Court, that ultimately led to the Supreme Court ruling the segregated busing in Montgomery being unconstitutional. And that was the ultimate victory of the Montgomery bus boycott. So that young, 15 years old, that 15-year-old teenager came to play a major role in a major moment in our people's history, right? At least I was doing the background, giving some background and intro. I haven't seen Brother William. I don't know if he's coming in.
Can you hear me now?
We're still getting that echo. I don't know why we're getting that echo. Right? Yeah.
Does she have two devices on?
How many devices do you have on, Lisa? She's been on before. We haven't had this trouble before.
I have I speak with Brother Waheed. I only got one on. I don't know what's going on here.
She should be talking just through her computer.
Right.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
This sounds like a moon launching connection.
I've never had this problem before, ever.
It might be. It's probably the FBI.
Yeah.
Well, Brother Waheed just joined us, Lisa. Right? Mm-hmm. Go out and come back in, and let me bring him in.
Right. Let's see if I can. Let me see what happens if I do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Try to restart your computer. Right? Try to restart it.
Brother Waheed, good to have you. I don't know if you got a chance to hear the intro that I gave for both Ms. Colvin and how we wound up coming to her and through you, right? So I want to welcome you to All Politics and Local. This is your first time with us. I hope it's not our last. But before we go into Ms. Colvin, I want you to tell your story because we share a mentor, right? We share. Then you can come off mute now, right? We share a mentor, none other than the great Kwame Ture, right? So I want you to tell your own story first and how you came to be this cultivator of these backstories of struggle, right? And we'll bring that on up to how that wound up being our gateway to Miss Colvin. You're on mute. Come on off mute. He's still muted. He doesn't hear me. You're still muted, Brother Waheed. Boy, everybody's having tech issues today. Oh, my goodness.
He went out to come back in.
Yeah, everybody's having tech issues today. This is, we just had a hot conversation in that last round. And they are the ingredients for another one, right?
Yeah, I think if she looked like she on her phone.
Are you on your phone? Can you hear us now, Lisa?
Can I be heard now? Is that better?
That's better. Yes, that's better.
I'm on my phone.
That's okay. Right? And hopefully Waheed, we just had Brother Waheed, and he was trying to come back in.
Is he on now?
Yes, he is. Unmute yourself, Brother Waheed.
He's on mute, Zay. Tell him to come on.
Come off mute. I don't know why he can't get off mute.
Does he know how to come off mute?
Yeah, he's struggling. He's struggling. Right? So, well, Lisa, we got you back. I did my intros and whatnot, but let's just come to you just squarely, right? As a Black radical organizer, right? How did you how did it come for you to embrace Miss Colvin, and how and why was she so impactful on your heart and in your spirit?
Well, I appreciate you asking me that, and thank you so much for having me on the show. Claudette Colvin and the Montgomery bus boycott is very personal to me. Back in the early 90s, I was on a New Jersey Transit train up north, meaning in New Jersey. I was working and I had to unexpectedly go. I was working in Orange and I had to unexpectedly go from Orange to Milburn. And I had bought all these tickets in advance that said Orange to Maplewood. But I unexpectedly that day had to go to Milburn, and it was one stop over. All told, it was about maybe not even a 10-minute ride, commuter trains above ground and everything. And it was the exact same fare. And this was in the early 90s, so I couldn't go in and exchange the ticket. We didn't have electronic tickets or anything like that then. And I get on the train, and this conductor tried to get me to pay more, and I questioned why. And he began to berate me, yelled and screamed at me, made it sound like I was stealing a ticket, and I wasn't. I was demanding that he stop treating me like this. And he did not. And there was a lot more conductors on the train at that time, and they're just standing by and allowing this man to just be so verbally abusive. And at some point, he even came running at me as if he was going to hit me. And so I'm in Milburn, New Jersey. I don't know where my mind was at that time. Everybody should be asking, what was I thinking? But he said, I'm going to call the police. I said, good, you call the police. I want to tell my side. 4 Milburn police officers come, all of them white, and they were more brutal than the conductor was. It was the most violent encounter I've ever had. They made me feel like they would hang me from a tree. And this is in Milburn, New Jersey. By this time, they let the conductor go. They detained me for over an hour, encircling me, berating me, cursing me. They wrote up false police reports and all of that. And I remembered at that time when that was going on, I said to myself, my gosh, I'd be hanging from a tree if I was in some other place and time. And I was not connected to the movement at all. In fact, it seemed like there was a bit of a lull in the movement. I had just graduated college. And I remember the only thing I could think of was Rosa Parks. I didn't know the names of anybody else. I didn't even know the complete story then, but Rosa Parks. And I remembered at that time, I knew I was going to fight this. And I want to also say that with my family, my brothers, my father gave me strong support. And somebody else I knew from the community, Jahada Sharif, gave me strong support. But for the most part, I didn't have other community support because I wasn't connected to organizations or anything. And I remembered I said to myself then, because I didn't want to have to fight this, but I said, I'm going to. What gave me the courage to do it was Rosa Parks, and thinking about that Montgomery bus boycott. And all in all, this to sue New Jersey Transit and this, the state of New Jersey to try to get some sense of justice, because I knew something was really wrong. It took about 4 years for that whole process, but all the while I continued to lean in to this Montgomery bus boycott. Didn't know the full story at all in Rosa Parks. And so to make a long story short, when Miss Parks died in 2005, that triggered my interest to try to find out more about the Montgomery bus boycott. And I had heard at one time when I was a little girl that there was a 15-year-old little girl who had stood up before Rosa did. But again, I didn't know any names or anything. So it was like 2:00 in the morning and I'm just Googling, I'm just looking at stuff. And I come across this name, Claudette Colvin. But what really shocked me was it said she lived in the Bronx. And I'm like, that she had been in the Bronx about a good 30, 40 years. And I'm like, what? I said, I don't think anybody knows this around here. I could be wrong about that, but I was so excited.
We didn't know at that point. You're right. No, we didn't know at that point. You're absolutely right.
Exactly. And then I happened to be coming across, I just keep Googling all this, and I come across this website that said more than a bus ride. And I go on this website and it has all this information, and it talks about these other women. And it mentioned Claudette Colvin. It also mentioned Mary Louise Smith, Ware Smith, who we also had the chance to interview one time. To send her something, tell her thank you. And then I see this phone number because I see this DVD, and I'm like, let me call this number. It was about, like I said, 2:00 in the morning. I was expecting to leave a voice message or some answer machine to tell me how to order, and somebody picked up, and it was brother Waheed, and I was so shocked that he picked up, but yet we began to have a conversation, and the information that he had and the way in which he told us, he was not just about relaying like facts, like, okay, that. He showed such care. And at the time, I was on the board of WBAI. And I don't know if I told Brother Waheed that at the time, but we just had such an intense conversation. And then he says to me, would you like to get connected to Miss Colvin? I was shocked. I was like, yes, I would. But again, he emphasized to me, and I'm gonna badly paraphrase this because he didn't say it like this, but he basically said, a lot of people, or some people have tried to like take advantage of them or exploit them, act like they own it or they own the story. And he was kind of like saying to me, don't act like that. Like I said, I'm badly paraphrasing, but I wanted him to know that I appreciated this with everything in my heart. And then I reached out to the contact he gave me for Miss Colvin, and they said yes. And I was on the board of WBA. I said, Bernard, can we do this show about Miss Colvin? He goes, yes. And the only condition was that we had to get somebody to bring her to the station, a ride to and from the station. And I reached out to Brother Minifu, who at that time was with us and driving and everything. I said, Brother Minifu, do you want to help me do this? He said, yes. But that's how Brother Minifu got the contact, because we drove to where Miss Colvin was, picked her up and brought her back. And from there, Brother Minifu brought the information to POP. So, but again, I just want to show such appreciation to Brother Waheed, because his knowledge and his telling and his care is invaluable. And it has everything to do with making the connection, at least through me, in terms of in the Northeast, in this area. So I thank you for that, Brother Waheed.
Brother Waheed, I want to put a pin in a couple of things that she said to bring you into this conversation. One, that ordeal that she described in this up south state. Jersey is the slave state of the North, and a very gangster state that we call it, that's well known as the soprano state for its racist corruption. Millburn, New Jersey is one of the richest and most racist towns in one of the most affluent counties in the state, and that's Essex County, right? So your daughter in struggle there got a real baptism in what racism really looks like in up south land. And she was lifting up some very good people. That Amanifu Williams was a long-standing radical brother who cut his teeth in the movement, first in the Nation of Islam, and then in the US organization, and then became a very serious labor organizer. And after dealing with some of the discord in the US organization, came from the West Coast to the East Coast and started working with people like the Imam Omiri Baraka and Lawrence Ham of the People's Organization for Progress. And that's from your connect with Lisa to the connect at WBAI and Baba Banifu. That's how we wound up bringing her into our spaces. So I just wanted to give you that background to bring this all together. So, brother, welcome. We want to really welcome you to the space. Before we were having issues with your connection, I shared with you that we share a mentor in Kwame Ture. So I wanted you to have a chance to tell your story about how the Kwames and the Margaret Walkers of the land inspired you to do what you do. And then, of course, you walk us down that incredible backstory that is the real story of the Montgomery bus boycott, of which Claudette Colvin deserves real attention. And he's trying to unmute. He's still having trouble with his sound. Yeah, your visual is fine, Brother Waheed, but your mic is off.
Zaid, when he first come on, the question they ask him, they tell him to turn his mic on, right? When he first click in.
Yeah.
possibly work if maybe, like, if you called him? Because I'm on my phone, I can't even call
Yeah, you
him.
can't call. Yeah, you can. All right, you two talk a minute. Let me see if I can reach
Yeah,
him.
I mean, the question is if he can, does he know how to get on? Is he on his phone or a
He
computer?
was on the computer. He was on a laptop.
Yeah. Does he know how to use his phone? Then we can send him a link to his phone.
Yeah, let me see if I can do that. I had
Just tell him to click the link, and then
I know that I had called him too, and he was like, "Oh, I can hear you all and everything." So maybe he could come back on with his camera, but if he can, call up on the phone to say what happened, because I mean, he's one of our griots. The information that he has.
but he's still muted. You see. He's not clicking to come on. But Lisa, let me ask you a question. Did you ever file a lawsuit against those people on that train?
Oh, yes, I did. I did file a lawsuit, and I'll just say that as brutal as the conductors was and the Melbourne Police Department was, the state of New Jersey and the Attorney General's office was even more brutal. And I could see this happened before. I mean, New Jersey is the state that gave us the term racial profiling.
Yeah.
And this happened before these young brothers were shot. They tried to kill them on the Garden State Parkway. The Attorney General's office justified everything, and that office has not changed. That office has not changed. They told me that even if what I said is true, so what? They are the state. And the Attorney General's office argued that a conductor has no way of knowing that being rude and abusive to anybody is violating their rights, and he should be immune from liability. These officers had admitted in writing to calling me a liar, a thief. They had framed an arrest record on me. I could prove I'd never been arrested before. And they also admitted in writing to calling me a bleeping liar, the F-word liar. And they said, so what? And the Attorney General's office, and this was under Deborah Ports at that time, argued that there was nothing unconstitutional with anybody work for the state writing up false police reports or doing any of these things. And they included, I never said anybody called me any racially derogatory names because I don't remember them doing that, and they did it. But they acted it. They were vicious. But they called me a racially derogatory term. The Attorney General's office put in writing for me that basically there was nothing unconstitutional with anybody work for the state calling somebody out of their names and stuff, including the N-word. And they put that in writing for me. They put that in writing for me. I never said anybody, but they called me that. And New Jersey used the most offensive, the most horrible examples of allowing police to be able to gun down Black people, do whatever they want. The examples that they bringing to me in that case were horrible. They were terrifying, really. And but this is one of the reasons why I have the passion that I do, because I'm not going to capitulate. I'm not going to make any excuses. The Montgomery bus boycott, when that happened, they didn't have Democrats on their side. They didn't have Republicans on their side. All they had, and this is enough. I'll hear some people say, we don't have anybody. I'm like, we have each other, and that is enough. We're like 2 billion people in the world. That's a lot. And they had themselves. That's who they had. And Emmett Till had just been murdered. Right. So Claudette Colvin taking the stand she did. Emmett Till was murdered in 54, right? And Claudette Colvin comes along and stands up the way that she did. And she talks about all the time the teachers who had been teaching her Black history. And she said that she felt Sojourner Truth on one shoulder, holding her shoulder, and she felt Harriet Tubman on the other. And, that's a powerful testimony. And I pray that Brother Waheed can get back on, because to hear him, what he has to offer is just so valuable. Or I should say invaluable.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's see if you can come off mute now, Brother Waheed. And if it doesn't work, I send it to your phone as well. I don't know why he can't do that. Yeah, he's still on mute.
Are you able to call him?
Yeah, I sent him the link to his phone.
Okay. Right. But anyway, so
But
but
Ed,
going back,
what she was saying, I lost my mind when I saw that brief where, they put it in the damn brief that there was nothing unconstitutional or wrong about them using the N-word and then, navigating that complaint that she was making. I couldn't believe that, right? But it was there. It was right there.
And
yep.
so,
And
so what happened to the lawsuit? Did they throw it out? Did the judge not hear it? What happened?
basically what ended up happening was I was able to prove my case to a certain extent against the Milburn Police Department. I wasn't able to prove it at that time against New Jersey Transit. New Jersey Transit had all these conductors that got up there and lied. One of these conductors, the name of the conductor that treated me so brutally, Thomas Stanton, and this is in writing, this is all in writing. Thomas Stanton was the name of the white conductor, but there was also a black conductor, Edward Norris, who got up on the stand and lied. I never forgave him or forgot that he did that. And so, they found with New Jersey Transit, they did. So I tried to appeal it. And basically the appellate court said my case had no merit, even though there were these horrible rulings. And when you have a court case, there's the trial judge, but there's these judges that make a lot of decisions before the trial judge even. And so they kicked everything out. They was kicking everything out of court. They kicked the false police report out. They said I couldn't try them on that. They kicked the fact that the defamation part of it out. I mean, they admitted in writing to calling me they put on the police report, I'm a mental case, I'm a thief, I'm a liar, all these things. And they are acknowledged in writing to calling me an effing liar. But New Jersey said I can't try them on that. And so they kicked so much of it out. The only reason I was able to get it in at all is because my hair was falling out of my head. I could prove that. And the trial judge saw that as a physical manifestation. But the courts for the most part were all they empowered the police to do exactly what they're doing. And I have something today, over 30 years later, over some BS where the police in South Orange is coming after me about utter BS, but all the things back them. The Attorney General's office backs them. And another thing that happened during that, because that became such an awakening for me. I mean, I always considered myself to be proud to be Black and to be proud of the Black liberation struggle, but I didn't know what that meant. I didn't even know what that looked like until I really had this sort of trial by fire, so to say. And I saw that we didn't have anybody. We had nothing. We didn't have the court system. The laws were nothing but decoration, because it doesn't mean anything if they don't apply to you in court. And we had nothing. And the thing about this case that was so alarming to me is that this was a simple thing with myself. I was just only thing I was doing was on a train. That's all I was doing. And it was something that I thought should have never escalated to this point. And that's the thing. You have a little minor thing, just because my ticket covered the zone, covered the fare, but just because it didn't say the exact thing. And then the conductor turned around and said he didn't accuse me of anything. The police said he accused me of theft. He turns around and completely backs away and completely lies. Said, no, I didn't accuse her of that. But that they would see these behaviors and justify them. And my attitude has always been, if you will handle and correct the police and make there be consequences for behavior that is certainly not like, beating somebody up, although I felt they did beat me. It was so violent. If you have that, then they're not going to do these other things. But just to bring it back to the case of the Montgomery bus boycott and Claudette Colvin and all that they did, before they would always just tell this Montgomery bus boycott in a way to disempower us, in a way to make us look like we're always groveling, because I used to always hear that, Black people wanted to be able to sit in the front of the bus. They wanted to be able to sit next to white people. That's basically how it's told. And that experience made it crystal clear to me that it was about something far, far much more than that. Because I kept thinking, I'm like, at least at that time when that happened to me, I at least had some semblance of laws that I might be able to pull to say you can't do this to anybody. They didn't have that back then. They did not have that back then. But yet, there was so much abuse. There was so much abuse. There were a black man had been killed on the bus. I think in 1950. I think his last name was Hubert. I have to get that information. You had
took him off the bus and killed him.
Right, but he was killed over the seat on the bus or something like that. He was killed. The police were called and they killed him over that. You had they would curse black people out. They had to pay the money in the front of the bus, and then they had to walk on the outside of the bus to the back of the bus. And many times the bus drivers would take off. Prior to Brother Waheed is the first time I ever heard of Joanne Robinson. And Joanne Robinson is somebody everybody should know about, because she was certainly one of the people responsible for organizing the Montgomery boycott and for saying that we have to boycott. I'm not sure she's the first one who said that. I know Brother Waheed would know that. She
was the key conceptualizer of the boycott.
Right. But these were like several years before the boycott actually happened. And she tells a story that she in
New Orleans. There were several other cities that they were experimenting with that in. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Let's see if this works now with our brother. Now, Brother Waheed, can you come off mute? He is really, oh, this is not fair.
Brother Waheed, oh no.
Come off mute. Yes. This is not fair. We done souped you up. We done blew you up. Oh, man.
But did he try? Was that his phone, Zaid?
No, yes. I had sent it to his phone, and I sent him the message that I sent it to his phone. I don't know if he saw it.
Oh.
But,
But are you able, Brother Zaid, are you able to call him from your phone and let him speak from your phone, and then he could still be on on the camera?
Yeah, that's one way to try it, Zaid.
Right.
Yep. So you take the audio from your phone. Let him stay on, but let him speak through your phone.
Right. Brother Waheed, Brother Zaid is gonna call you, but if you stay on camera, because he is so powerful, we have to hear him. You got to hear him more than once. So maybe you can invite him on another show or whatever like that.
I'm trying to get to the number now.
But just to let you know, one of the things I also want to say about Miss Colvin, because when I heard the details about what happened, it was so much more empowering than the myth that they tell about this. But one of the things that really gave me so much strength was, first of all, being able to tell Miss Colvin, to thank her so much, to tell her how much what they did really was living inside of me and how I appreciated that. But when I also heard that Claudette Colvin's father, Mr. Colvin, he waited up all night long with a gun, expecting the Klan to come, waiting for them to come by his house if they were going to do that. He waited up all night long. Now Miss Colvin's sister told me that, but also I heard a recording of Claudette herself saying that, but he waited up all night long with a gun. And I think it's important for our people to know that, because they just put that out that, oh, we're supposed to be so passive or so, what they will say, nonviolent. And I just want to be clear about this. Self-defense is not violent. Self-defense is not about being violent. But, they let that be known. And then another person that Brother Waheed was responsible for us making this connection with is Miss Mary Louise Smith. And she was the second person before Rosa. The second, and it's also important to understand this. They're not the first people who were arrested, but they were the first people to fight it. And Claudette Colvin became the first one to say, I did not do this. I'm not going to plead guilty. And when they were pulling her off that bus and dragging her off that bus, she was yelling, I have my constitutional rights. I have my rights. And
hold on a second now, Lisa. Let's see who Brother Waheed is trying one more time. Let's see how he comes in. Brother Waheed, can you unmute from where you're at? He is still. No, all right. All right, let me just call you because I just pulled his number when he came back on. Let me try and call him now. Go ahead, go back as you were,
Right.
Lee.
Right. Her father sat up with the all night with the gun, waiting for the Klan to come. And then on October 21st, Mary Louise Smith, 18 years old, and she is the only one who is still alive. That's one of the key players because they went on to be with the lawsuit Browder versus Gale, which is such an important lawsuit. That was the lawsuit that was going on all while the Montgomery bus boycott was going on. They had the lawsuit. Fred Gray, who was such a strategist back then, a young guy. Fred Gray was the attorney, but he was challenging things through the court, the Browder versus Gale. But anyway, Mary Louise Smith, October 21st, 1955, 18 years old, and she had worked in this person's home, white people's home, for a whole week. And she was expecting them to pay her at the end of the week, and they did not. And then they told her, well, come back the following Monday or whatever. So she said, after working a whole week, expecting to get her paycheck, and she didn't get a paycheck, she went back. And when she gets back, I think they just ignore, they don't even acknowledge her. They don't even open up the door for her. And she said that what made her, of course, so angry. And then she goes to get back on the bus. And that's when they tried to make her get up, and she refused. And one thing that we should also know is that they weren't sitting where white people were sitting. They were sitting where, in the colored section. These women had been sitting in the colored section. And in the case of Claudette Colvin, if a white person came, they expected Claudette Colvin to get out of the row that the white person was going to sit in. So the white person went to the colored section. I guess there was not enough seats, and they expect her to get out of the row. Is anybody else here with me? It says I'm the only one on.
You're fine.
Okay. But anyway, they expected her to get out of the row. So this white woman sits opposite her. Claudette Colvin is in her seat, and they expected her to move because you could not sit in the same row as a white person back then. And Claudette Colvin said no. And so, yeah. So it's such a powerful, powerful story. We have to know the details. We have to know about these people, these everyday people who exhibited their life with such tremendous integrity and conviction. So I think that's so important. Were we able to call Brother Waheed?
I have him on the line. Let me see if he can come through. Can you hear me now, Brother Waheed?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can y'all
Now I
hear
hear an echo.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Go ahead and tell us how you came to Claudette Colvin and on your work and why she's so important.
I'll tell you that, but let me give you a very short story about my relationship to New York. I was at A&T in 1968 when Dr. King was assassinated, and I was among the 250 students that went out that night along with about 258 other cities and protested, rioted, demonstrated with his death. 30 days later, I lost my deferment and I was drafted in the Army. So I served for 3 years. And when I left, I came to New York. And when I got to New York, the bookstore on 125th Street was still alive and kicking. So I started getting my education that I didn't get in the Deep South. I got it in the bookstore on 125th Street. Wow. So that was my New York experience. I was working with the OEO program. We were training adults, immigrants, as well as native New Yorkers to get their GED and also to get certificates and blood bank technicians to work in the hospitals. So I left from there and went to Mississippi because I wanted to get on the front line of the struggle. After having tasted what happened in Greensboro, the intellectual exposure that I got in New York, and you mentioned the Caribbean community, I was there for the original cast of the River Niger.
Wow.
So that lets you know the era that I was in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get to Mississippi, enrolled in college there, and that was my crossroad to Kwame, because it was all African Revolutionary Party.
Yes, sir.
But a lot of the SNCC people were still there. They had a lot of them went into the nation, but we also formed the Black Arts community, and so that the Black Arts Initiative became the hub of the new movement in Mississippi. For 40 years, I worked in community economic development, and I had a cable show called Let's Talk About It, the cable access show. And I wanted to, like Lisa was saying, I wanted to get more information about the Montgomery movement. So I went down to Montgomery to start doing the research about the boycott, etc. And I came across an archive and just reading the material, and I found this article said they too rode the bus. It was an article written in the Guardian newspaper, and it exposed those 4 women who eventually went to trial to challenge the Montgomery bus seating. I first met Claudette in 2004. She came down to visit her family in Montgomery, and she was at a bus station, and Mary Louise Smith wanted to see her. They had not seen each other since 1956. So we were at the bus station, and that's when I first had a chance to meet her and talk with her. Brothers Age, I stayed in Montgomery almost a year and a half doing that research, and people were just like, they were indifferent to me because they had been bombarded with so many people coming down, getting information, mistelling the stories. They just didn't want to talk.
Mm-hmm.
But I was that little kid that wouldn't go away, and so finally they said, the only way we're going to get rid of this kid, we're going to have to talk to him. I was a kid, but to them I was. And so finally they started telling me the stories. I followed them around. Got a lot of the people who were on the front line where Dr. King was still living then. Mm-hmm. People who served on the Montgomery Improvement Association board. They were still living, so I got firsthand information about what was happening at the upper level. A lot of the people who were marching and demonstrating, I met them, so I got a chance to interact with people on the ground level. The story with Claudette, that I've heard a lot that's true, but I've heard some things that don't tie in all the pieces. And as Elisa was saying, she was not, Mary Louise, they were not the first person to have challenges to be arrested on the bus. Claudette's case was unique because prior to Claudette, there was no Black lawyers in Montgomery. E.D. Nixon was the race man. He was a labor man.
Right.
He was the one that represented Black folks when they had problems. And so prior to then, they had no Black lawyers. So they had nobody to challenge the cases because they had no lawyer to do it. And Claudette's case was such a dangerous case because she was charged with assault on a police officer. That was a felony.
That's right.
And you could deal with serious jail time. And so now you have a Black lawyer. So now you have somebody to represent her. And the Mrs. Parks, E.D. Nixon, they led the effort to raise money to pay for her defense. Now, I want to make this very clear about something about her. Claudette, when she was arrested, she was not pregnant.
Right.
She got pregnant in the June of that summer. After she joined Mrs. Parks's student NAACP council, and when they were going around to the meetings and so forth, that's when she got pregnant. She wouldn't tell her great uncle who got her pregnant because she said if he did, he would have killed her. Yeah. So she kept it secret. So what happened with that, Montgomery was divided along class lines, just like black folks are divided along class now. And there was one part of the class group that said, we don't think she'll be a good representative for us in a test case. Right. Another group led by Fred Gray, the lawyer, Joanne Robinson, Dr. King, and that group said it didn't make any difference who she was. The fact that her rights have been abused, we need to take it to court. The underground story is Fred was trained at Wayne State University,
Detroit,
which was an NAACP stronghold.
That's Detroit.
Western case, not Wayne State, Western case.
I'm sorry, okay.
Fred came to Montgomery. When Fred got out of law school, his mission was to get a Brown v. Board type case on the bus. But to do that, you had to have a plaintiff. Right. Claudette was the first chance he had to get a plaintiff. And so he was gung-ho to represent her. The problem was when she got pregnant in June, it was her family that pulled her back. Not Fred, not the black community. Her family said they didn't want her in that position to be ridiculed in the public. And so it's important to note that I've heard her say that the black community turned on her. One of the things I can tell you about many of the people, the young people of that era, they did not communicate with each other. They didn't communicate with leaders. And so many of them had not done the research and had not done the connections about what was going on in Montgomery, because the middle class community where Dr. King was, where Joanne Robinson was, they didn't communicate with the black folks where E.D. Nixon was, and where most of the boycotters were, and where Claudette lived. There was no communication with those folks. They didn't communicate with each other. So a lot of things people miss. But I wanted to say that Claudette's courage, as a 15-year-old, she wouldn't back down. And she wouldn't back down, but there were other teenagers who wouldn't back down. But she was one of those outspoken kids who didn't bite her tongue. And because she was one of those kind of kids, she had a classmate on the bus with her, Annie Price, who was with the NAACP Youth Council. Same age, same class. But she sat quietly. She didn't say anything. Claudette said, no, I'm not getting up. And of course, she said a few curse words and screamed and carried on. They beat her, drug off the bus, took her to an adult jail.
Right.
She was in serious trouble.
Right.
And that's Fred being there really saved her life. Because if Fred had not been there, she'd have been buried in juvenile jail for 10 or 15 years.
I can see it, yes.
So I just wanted to set that stage.
Now you also now listen now
go ahead,
Brother Waheed. You also dropped something here that is also powerful that I don't think was known. Now you how this young woman got pregnant.
Well, let me tell you this: why it never been talked about.
That's a lot of trauma. That
was statutory rape.
That's a lot of trauma.
Statutory rape, and who was she around? Those people who were the men who were there at those meetings where those fundraisers were held.
Oh my goodness.
You understand what I'm saying?
That is a lot. That's a lot. So a lot for a 15-year-old girl to carry.
A lot for a 15-year-old girl to carry, and a lot was suppressed because that would have scandalized the NAACP the same way they were trying to scandalize her as an individual.
Wow.
And and she raised she raised the child, right? And she had,
No, what she did, she had the child.
Mm-hmm.
She returned to school, and there was such harassment. She had another son, and then that's when she moved to New York. Her great uncle raised the child in Montgomery. She didn't raise the child.
Okay.
I also just now the things that you're saying, Brother Waheed, I'm still learning, because I wasn't even aware of that. Although I did hear Ms. Colvin say that it would have been considered statutory rape today, but she didn't go into any other details. But I also just want to say too that back during those times, for a person to have a baby out of wedlock was just considered something. It was just considered back in those days so scandalous. No matter what, so that was just something else I just wanted to say back then.
And that was very common in Black communities. Girls got pregnant, and them grandmamas and granddaddies raised the child. I mean, that wasn't abnormal, but what was abnormal was who got her pregnant.
Right.
Right.
And Brother Waheed, and Lisa, I'm born in 67, so I can tell you that young ladies of my generation, that if we were in school, and it might have been that, you ended up going south for the summer, and then all of a sudden you got a cousin or something, or and so that wasn't, between her age, until probably in the more recent years, but our community has always been a very conservative community when it comes to that.
Exactly. But I want to go through a piece, because I don't know how much time we have, but I want to make a couple of connections. One is that when Mary Louise Smith, same identical thing happened to her to Claudette, except that she was dealing with, as Lisa said, she went to go get her money, people didn't pay her, and then they had the audacity to tell her to get up and give up her seat to a white man. And she went off, and she said, I said some things that I'm not proud of. They pulled her off the bus, arrested her, did the same thing. Now, she wasn't pregnant. She was a high school graduate.
That's right.
But they treated her the same way along the class line. But this was the class issue. The class issue was also, now you have to understand, Mrs. Parks was not a member of the upper class. She had what we call middle class color, but she had blue collar profession. She was a seamstress.
Right.
She was not among the Women's Political Council with Joanne and all of those groups. The reason that Joanne them knew her, because for years she had been secretary of the NAACP. So that's how they knew her. Fred's strategy and ED's strategy was to get a case in court, but they wanted to have this perfect lamb. She was the perfect lamb.
Yes.
Mrs. Parks, I'm going to tell y'all this. I don't know if you ever heard it before, but you're going to hear it from me tonight. The day that Mrs. Parks took her stand, she and her lawyer, Fred Gray Sr., had a 3 or 4 hour lunch. They discussed every detail of Claudette's case. And they said they needed a case that was clean, that was just challenging bus seating, but didn't have those other issues. Fred mysteriously goes out of town that day. That's the day Mrs. Parks take her stand.
Wow.
E.D. Nixon sitting around in the back cut. When she gets arrested, all of a sudden he's downtown to get out of jail. You gonna tell me a woman who had a 40-year history with E.D. Nixon as his right hand, the secretary to Fred Gray, is gonna go take a stand like that without them knowing?
Right. Exactly.
Come on, brother.
Exactly.
We know how it goes.
Exactly. Yeah.
But Mrs. Mary Louise Smith told me this. She said this: we loved Mrs. Parks. And the reason we loved her, because she was the only adult who stood up and did what we did and defended what we did. Wow. But she refused to give up her seat. Yeah. That's what they said about her.
Yeah.
That they loved her for that reason. They didn't resent her. Yeah. They loved her because they said, oh, finally somebody, one of the grown folks had the courage to do what we kids did. Yeah.
Claudette Colvin always, I heard her say that Rosa Parks was her hero.
And so what happened when they got ready to go to court, Mrs. Parks was the one that they originally chose for the case. But she had her case was appealed at the state level. And for legal reasons, they could not put her on a federal case with an appeal for a state case. Mm-hmm. So now they had to go get 4 new plaintiffs. Mm-hmm. Claudette agreed. Mary Louise's father agreed. They went and asked Miss 77-year-old Sue McDonald, and they went and asked 35-year-old Aurelia Browder to be plaintiffs, and they agreed. Now, I want to say this about the case because this is a very important point. The Browder v. Gale case, bus seating was the battlefield. Bus seating was the strategy because that was something that affected 95% of the black folks in Montgomery. Bus seating is something that everybody agreed on that situation needed to be changed. Ending segregated seating on busing was a strategy, but it wasn't a goal. The goal was reinforcement of the 14th Amendment. The goal was completing what Brown v. Board did not complete. Mm-hmm. Brown v. Board was a social ruling that said that discrimination in schools would affect black children via the Kenneth V. Clark Doll test. Yes. But it had not, but the Brown ruling was not, and I challenge any lawyer, go look at the court records. Warren said, we are not going to argue Plessy because Plessy is about bus seating and Brown is about education. Uh-huh. So you commingle the two cases. So you had to have a bus case to overturn Plessy. The Browder v. Gale case overturned Plessy, and that's when you get the explosion of the civil rights movement in the South. After that ruling was removed, then all over the South, everybody exploded. Right. One other point, very crucial point.
Also,
those majority black women that rode those buses and the few men that were still driving buses, 20,000 a day. That's 2 times a day, right? That's 40,000 times 10 cents. They brought General Motors to its knees.
That's right.
They brought the labor movement that was popping up all over the nation, was bringing America to its knees. The colonial movement all over Africa was picking up on what we were doing in Montgomery. It was that political pressure from that boycott that forced the Supreme Court to make that ruling.
Wow. Thank you.
And Waheed, I'm sorry, did you say that you went to A&T?
Yeah, I went to A&T for 2 years before I got deported.
No, did I hear that you said that you were part of the lunch counters as well?
The what?
The lunch counters. I thought I heard you say that.
The lunch counters was in the 60s.
Okay.
There in 68.
Okay. All right. That was before. Okay.
Just
Yeah,
to say,
was in the 60s.
right. Just to say a couple of more things, because I know, Brother Waheed, you're doing some other great work too. But Mary Louise Smith, because from what I understand, after the Montgomery boycott, at some point, most of the people were very actively involved, or at least many involved in that case, they ended up leaving Montgomery, except for Miss Smith, and that she got involved in another case in terms of striking down Brother Waheed.
She
What was the
did.
case?
She attended the March on Washington. And remember, Claudette is gone. Jordan Robinson is out of town. A lot of the leaders are gone. Mary Louise never left. And so, and what happened in the 60s, they found that the YMCA was violating the Browder v. Gale ruling. They were sponsoring and supporting the YMCA, but would not allow Black children in certain programs. So Mary Louise Smith and her sister and their two minor sons sued the YMCA, and that lawsuit was the final nail of discrimination laws in the state, in the city of Montgomery. And today, with Black executives running the YMCA since the 60s, none of them have not even put their names on nothing connected to the YMCA.
Wow.
The city of Montgomery has not put Mary Louise Smith and her family's name on nothing connected to that boycotting trial.
Wow.
It is a shame and a disgrace.
I'll give you another.
It should be talked about, and they should be embarrassed by the way that they have treated the Smith family.
Wow. Thank you, sir.
Well, I can just, again, as somebody who personally felt what they did, I thank them all. And to me, that the greatness of this, and this is not taking away anything from Dr. King or Miss Parks or anybody whose names did get out there, but the greatness, the power of what happened is in the truth and in what everyday people, and even Dr. King, when he came to Montgomery, he wasn't coming there from what I understand. Please correct me if I'm wrong. He wasn't coming there thinking, oh, I want to be this great leader and I want to do all this kind of stuff.
No, he came there to preach and to work on his PhD.
Right.
But let me also say this about Dr. King, because a lot of people don't give him the credit for what I think one of the greatest things he did. He was able to build a coalition between two factions in Montgomery. The faction who just wanted to go to court and do a lawsuit, and the faction led by E.D. Nixon who wanted to do the labor strike. And so Dr. King was able to build a coalition between the first movement in history where you had a legal contest supported by a pocketbook challenge. And he was able to do that. And when his home was bombed, his daddy came down there and said, Martin, you need to come on up to Atlanta because it's too dangerous for you. Martin looked at him and said, Daddy, they ain't got nowhere to go. Why should I leave? And he said, no, I'm going to stay right here. And when he did that, unbreakable bond was built between the people in Montgomery, Black folks in Montgomery, and him as a leader, because they found out what we found out. Dr. King never sold out. He never sold us out. He had his principles that we disagreed on some things. And Stokely was one of the first ones to stand up and say, Kwame said, if there's only one leader that we can tell you right now that would never sell us out, and that was Dr. Martin Luther King.
That's right.
And that's who he was in Montgomery. And it was because of Claudette, because of Mary Louise, because of Aurelia Browder and Sue McDonald It's because of Fred Gray, because they won that case.
Right.
And when they won that case, that made Dr. King and Mrs. Parks national names.
That's right.
So, Lisa, that's where they got their fame from. It was those women, and what they did is brought national recognition, and the liberal press, the liberal media never wanted you to know that they had formed an independent organization, planned it, brought it down to their knees. They wanted to make you think it was a spontaneous movement and some angelic effort that came out of heaven and some tired old woman. They'd rather tell you that story than to tell you planning, strategy, organization,
yes, sir.
determination,
yes,
loyalty.
And also, just to go back with Mrs. Parks, because when I learned, and I learned this again through you, Brother Waheed, like the Browder versus Gale and all the things that you're saying, this is what I got from you. And not that I was doubting what you were saying, but as I began to dig more myself into this, what really happened, everything that you were saying, that you had told me when we first talked, panned out to be true. And this just speaks to what he put into his research. And he even at one time on the website had a copy of the original flyer that was handed out, because from what I understand, Joanne Robinson stayed up almost all night using the mimeograph machine, which is much different from the copy machine that we had today. But
with two of her Alabama State students that I also had a chance to meet, one of them, they helped her do those thousands and thousands of flyers on their old mimeograph machine with the ink carbons.
Yeah, and to say, let's get this out, because when they decided they were going to, Miss Robinson said that they had, like you said, 3 years, they had the plan in action. Then when that happened to Mrs. Parks, they're like, let's go with it. But they were able to.
And that night, Lisa, let me tell you what happened that night. I'll tell you how this stuff is connected. The night that Mrs. Parks was arrested, right? Guess who Fred Gray paid visits to? Joanne Robinson and E.D. Nixon.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Now, you don't think they strategized?
Hardcore.
Come on.
Yeah.
And let me just tell you this, that I heard Brother Fred Gray. Fred Gray is also still alive. So Fred Gray and Mary Louise Smith.
Fred and Mary Louise Smith are the only two
people they're alive
who were connected with that case.
Yeah, Fred was in his 20s. He was quite young then.
Yep. But I heard
Martin was in his 20s.
That's right.
Mrs. Parks was 42. E.D. Nixon was 62. Rufus Lewis was 62. So you had the elders who brought those young people in, gave them support, and guided them through that process.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes,
but
sir.
I heard Brother Fred Gray say, because I had the chance to, I was very honored to be able to go to the send-off ceremony when Miss Colvin decided, and her family decided, that she was going to move from New York and back to, I think, Memphis, or at least back to the South. But I heard Fred Gray say, and this is what really, this struck out me when I heard him say, when I was recently looking at the video, Fred Gray talked about briefly how he remembered this man being killed over the bus. And he said he knew he had to do something. And he was relaying it as if he didn't, because he was a young, kid, probably a teenager. And
yeah.
Right. So, and I think that had something to do with him deciding to become an attorney to fight it.
Well, let me say this.
We got to wrap it up.
You said something about the NAACP. Let me tell you a brief history. E.D. Nixon founded the NAACP in Montgomery in the 30s. And he was the leader of the NAACP for a number of years. E.D. Nixon was 6'6", jet black man. He worked his way from the railroad, from shoveling coal, to become a Pullman car porter. He was influenced by A. Philip Randolph.
Yes.
His influence with labor, plus the fact that he wasn't polished and degreed, the elites in Montgomery pushed him out of the NAACP presidency. So at the
Too
time
black,
of the
too strong.
boycott, the NAACP, you have to remember the NAACP did not approve of the boycott, did not get involved with the boycott until
I didn't know that.
the case. That's when they got involved with it. For 30 days, they didn't have nothing to do with it.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
so what you said about the Niagara movement?
Yeah, you heard that.
It's
You heard that.
parallel to what happened in Montgomery. That's the point I'm making.
Excellent.
Is this Zaid? Is this Brother Waheed's first time?
Yes, it is.
May I just say one thing, Brother Zaid? Was I not correct about Brother Waheed? Was I not correct?
Absolutely.
I was like, y'all got to get him. You got to get him.
Given all the tech challenges that we had, we were lucky to have him.
Well, Brother Waheed,
and take all that. And Brother Wade, Brother Zaid, Brother Sister Lisa, they deported me from Montgomery 60 years ago, but I'm back here now.
Yes, sir.
And I'm working on a piece called Hidden Revelations to share some of the unknown stories about Montgomery movement and the Selma movement. Both of them are parallel in terms of local people taking charge, making the change,
yes, sir,
inviting Dr. King in to help them make the change. But if you did not have local people on the ground with history of struggle, those changes would never have happened.
Yes.
Well, Brother Waheed, because the hour, go ahead, because you got we right at the end of the hour.
We don't want to get off.
I know, and as they say, the man is gonna cut us off. But go ahead.
I got my big boy pants on. Cut me off.
No, I wanted to. We have a question. This is a hip hop political show. So before we ask the question, we want to say thank you very much for being here, and please don't be a stranger. And in terms of what you were just getting ready to talk about your struggle on the ground and local people, we would love for you to come back, because that's very relative to what's going on all over. And so we would like to have a discussion about that. So please look out for our invitation to come back.
I will, and you have an example of local struggle right there with Lisa.
That's right.
And remember that what's the lady's name in New York? Lisa, we talked about the other day on the railroad carriage back in the 1800s, 1900s, who fought bus seating in Brooklyn. I can't think of her name.
I know.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So we
Paula
have
Giddings lifted her up years ago, and when I enter.
Yeah.
So we're going to have, but let me ask you the question. This is a hip hop political show. So when you're doing the work or research, you're doing the things that you need to do to educate our community, is there a hip hop artist, individual, or group that you listen to keep you inspired? And if not hip hop, who?
Gil Scott Heron.
All right. Gil Scott Heron.
Gil Scott Heron.
All right. And Miss Lisa, what is your answer for today?
It's always going to be Marvin Gaye, What's Going On? But also, I just want to say this. The going home ceremony for Miss Colvin is tomorrow, and it's supposed to be live streamed from the church. I got to send the information about what church it is in Alabama now. He went to the viewing tonight, and he will be at the funeral tomorrow. Okay.
Wonderful. Well, I'm glad they got there, because we're supposed to be having weather gonna shut the South down.
Yeah, it's just shutting
shut us all down.
We're supposed to be shut
Not
down.
just the South. Well, thank you, Brother Waheed, and thank you, Sister Lisa.
Sister Lisa, thank you so much for connecting me to these wonderful people. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Zaid, we were gonna have a guest. They're gonna come back. He's there.
I didn't know I didn't know somebody else was coming on.
Yeah. So what was happening, Zaid, is that we were going to go to some of the breaking news, of course, that's been taking place as it relates to the murder or assassination of
Brother Bay.
Brother Bay. And True was trying to get the family, but unfortunately, schedules were mixed up. So we're going to try to reschedule them next week. But True wanted to come on and just, give us, set a foundation for when they come through next week and tell us what's been happening on the ground.
True. So first we want to offer our condolences. So thank you for coming through. But
Well,
please accept our sincere condolences.
and I'll send those condolences to the family as well. And thank you guys for having me on. I'll just say this in short. We believe, like the family, that because we believed. Let me put an ED on the end, like the family, that because the body camera footage was not being released by the police, um, or by the city of Newark or the police department, that there was an attempt at some type of cover up here, or some type of push to the side or brush off of this incident. But the reality is, as we found out today, that and we need to get this out to the public as quick as we can. But the attorney general assumed control over the entire investigation upon hearing about it, and ordered that no Essex County or Newark officials uh, could touch anything dealing with it, to include the body cameras. So that gave the family today a little pause, a chill button to now redirect our energy to the
True. Do
state.
you know? Do you know the legislation that directs what happens when there's a police involved shooting?
Absolutely. So there's
You know.
well,
You.
the
Okay.
from the policy perspective, the state has required all municipalities, when there's a police shooting, to step to the side and allow them to come in and do the investigation for purposes of conflict and all of that other stuff. So we're clear on that part.
Okay.
However, we weren't clear on the part on whether or not the body camera still remained in Newark, or whether or not the state had assumed that as well. And if it was here in Newark, we were asking our elected officials and our leaders here to swiftly have that body camera released, so that the public could form the opinion about this, what we're calling an assassination. Like, let's be clear here. This is a gentleman that the media, as and members of the power structure, as that we'll call them here, would love to paint as a villain or a criminal with a criminal record and all that. None of those things matter, though. We're talking about the person's character, as opposed to the blood that was inside of the person's veins that spilled out and took them from this realm. Right? That's the focus here. And we can't allow a sideshow to distract us away from what that focus is. The question here is, was the cop right or wrong? We are saying, based on eyewitness accounts, the eyewitness being the victim, who was also another individual, was also shot by the same cop at the scene, but did not expire. That that even the own cop's partner told him, "Don't shoot," and he still shot. So that speaks to something different, more broader, more underlying, that we need to get to. And the body camera is the beginning, the route to the get to for us.
Zay, you have a question?
No.
No. Okay. Ed.
Yeah, I've got a question. So, we were talking about getting the family on. So, are we going to be able to schedule them to come on next week, True?
Absolutely. So I was trying to reach out to the sisters, and I was unable to get to the sisters. Let me make it clear that the family is organized. In fact, it's one of the biggest families in the city of Newark, the Bay family, who actually are an original family of Seth Borden and Dayton Street. But nevertheless, I tried to reach out to the sisters, was unable to get them. I got a hold to a cousin that spoke at the rally on behalf of the family that I'm cool with as well. And he said he did not want to assume that role. He would wait on the sisters. He tried to reach out to them, and they were, busy doing whatever they were doing, and it was late, late notice for them. But I asked them, could we get them on for next week, and they definitely said yes.
Okay. All right, then why don't we do that, True? What we'll do is, and we'll set aside some time. We'll send that to you and let you know exactly what that time slot is. And
Yes.
just want to thank you, my brother, for taking some time out to come and give the community, some of the information on the current issues that are taking place, not only with this particular tragedy, but of course with the family. And as Donna said, please send our condolences to the family, and
Yes.
we'll look forward to having them on next week to talk to the community.
Let me
Yes, sir.
tighten this up real quick though, Ed, just for everybody's benefit that may not be familiar with what we're talking about. On January 19th, Dr. King's holiday.
Come on.
Literally while we were marching for Dr. King.
Oh.
This young man, Wally Day, was in his van with his cousin, and a masked officer who did not identify himself from the eyewitnesses rolled up on them with a gun. And they got in gear to try to get away from what they thought was a robbery, themselves being shot by undercover policing. Here's the last.
That's proper context.
Really important, right? There was misinformation that the city was going to stop our undercovers from wearing these masks. The police director said, no, that's not true. We haven't. They should. Mm-hmm. Wally Bay is the second person to be killed because of those damn masks. The other person to be killed was one of their own.
Right.
And they rolled up on that 14-year-old boy months ago, and that young boy fired on him because he didn't know who the hell they were.
Right.
So people need that context so we can build on that next week. Thank you, True.
Those are the facts, Baba. Yes, that's a fact right there. And thank you for that proper context. I apologize that I didn't put it in that context.
No, True, you did. You did exactly. You did. You let us know what's going on, and for and being close to it. Thank you very much. And again, our sincere condolences.
Absolutely. Thank you all for having me again.
We'll see you next week, True. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Peace.
Yeah, so Zaid, that what we wanted to
see your text, Ed, because I had Waheed on the phone.
Yeah,
I was trying to hit you up in the private chat. I didn't know what True was doing.
yeah. When I did this, I knew you had him on the phone, so I wasn't going to hit you on the phone.
So I couldn't see that.
But that's why I just said let's wrap it up so we could give True, a few minutes to come on and kind of give us the breaking news.
Yeah, I've been trying to reach out to the family through several other channels.
Yeah,
Reef and brother Tut, because I think Tut is actually related to them.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So we've been trying to do that and try to put them in touch with some other help too.
Okay.
So yeah.
What we want to do is sort of stay true to our policy, and that is, as we've always had the victims' families come on.
Right. Exactly right.
That way, give them some space and let them tell their story, right? And then, of course, tell us what they want us to know as it relate to what law enforcement are telling them, and then we'll try to help them through it. But I think that one of the things I think that we should be talking about is if they don't have a legal fund, it would seem to me that they need to consider that, and they need a lawyer, right?
Exactly. I got a list.
Right.
And I want it in their hand.
Yeah. And that's what I think, we want to help with and try to advise them on. But we'll wait until next week.
Yeah, and especially somebody who can navigate, that the whole attorney general process. So that's, you don't want somebody. But who are we saying thankful for? Who thank you to all our guests? Who are we thanking? for the show tonight,
Well,
Zahid.
obviously, we want to thank Roundtree for coming through and holding up the disciples. She came through by herself, had some incredible guests. Of course, she had, Brother Dave Muhammad who came on.
Mhm.
She had Councilman Crump who came on, and she had Miss Williams who's in charge. And this is important, Don. You should have been on. There's a new office inside City Hall, which is to help veterans, right?
Okay.
Get jobs, get financing, health care, who may have gotten lost in the shuffle. And so,
disabled vet too, young woman too.
Okay.
So I thought that, you'd have definitely been on, you'd have been able to help with that because you're a veteran yourself.
Yes. Right. Okay, we have to get her back. Okay. Her and the sister from the health department. I know the sister. Remember the sister from the health department?
Yes.
Woo.
Yes.
Right.
All right. Yeah.
And one of the big things that Roundtree shared is that, she's going to be working in partnership with some other elected officials with this expungement, right? Helping people get their records
coming up.
Okay.
Which she said that she was going to get us the flyer. So as soon as she does, we're going to post it. But that is an incredibly huge thing, man. If we can really get that promoted in the community, right? Because as you know, a lot of young men, can't get their lives started because, at the end of the day, they don't know the process to get any expungement done. And most of them don't really have the money to pay the lawyers.
Exactly.
So that's
And I know we're thanking, but I will tell you, I will send everybody email. I talked to Brother Chino this week. They were, I have to give it to Chino and all of them and their lobbying efforts. They had Murphy working his pen right up until that transition. They got a lot of clemencies, even on the last day. So
that's one thing that Murphy did.
Yeah, we know he didn't do the budget, but I want to have Chino come back on and just talk about, we often don't talk about, the lobbying is very important, and their lobbying has been very successful. What they were able to get, and we'll talk about it later, but they were able to get restoration of votes. They were able to get persons to be the right to be jurors again. So their lobbying efforts was very successful, and the amount of persons that they were able to bring and successfully get clemency is tremendous. So I had talked to Chino about that, and hopefully we can get him on this 5th week as well. So,
well, we definitely owe Chino, some space to talk about that and send him a huge congratulations. Zahid, let's thank the other guests before we close out.
Yeah, we had, of course, you heard Lisa Davis and Brother William Waheed, who gave you that incredible appreciation of what Brother Waheed calls the backstory of the Montgomery bus boycott in tribute to the late Claudette Colvin. Claudette Colvin, only 15 years old, on March 2nd, 1955, went through hell when she dared to refuse to give up her seat. And she was the first of 5 females, Rosa Parks being the 5th of 5, right, to really make the noise that will ultimately become the epic Montgomery bus boycott. Want to appreciate them for coming on. We had a lot of tech issues, but we got it in. Before that, Trust Graham, Renee Johnston, who's with Community Movement Builders, and guest scholar Brian Kawoba, who's got a new book out on one of the premier Black radical scholars of the late Hubert Harrison, who was a foundational figure that ultimately became the Universal Negro Improvement Association with Mr. Garvey, and of course the political edge of what became the Harlem Renaissance, an unsung hero whose story is being told once again.
And there's also a book signing coming up, right?
Book signing is coming up this coming Thursday, 6 p.m. at Source of Knowledge Bookstore.
Yep. At our beloved sister's bookstore, the Source of Knowledge, our premier bookstore in the city of Newark. So we thank all of them, for coming through tonight, and really, really thought that was some valuable history that we were learning. So we definitely look forward to having them come back and continuing that conversation. So we want to thank you all for tuning in tonight. Of course, you all know this is All Politics Are Local. we'll see you guys next week. In fact, next week is an extra week, right? So
that's right. It's the fifth Friday.
It's the fifth Friday. That's what I said. Yeah, so we can have fun next week.
Exactly. So we can go wild next week, Zahid.
Yeah. I'm like we're going wild this week.
I got some conspiracies already.
Huh?
I got some conspiracies already.
All right.
And I got a couple. So, but everybody, please be safe. This weather is supposed to be serious. Please take heed and don't be on that road if you don't have to. And if y'all haven't heard the name Liam Ramos, please keep that name in mind and keep that family. I mean, everybody, there's so much going on, but the 5-year-old that they took up in Minnesota, that 5-year-old boy, is just horrible.
Yep.
And I had sent that to us, Liam Ramos.
Yeah, they sent them to Texas.
Yeah, he's in San Antonio.
They sent them to Texas.
A 5-year-old they sent to Texas. Wow. Can't make this stuff up, Zahid.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
So listen, we'll catch you all next week, and hopefully we'll talk a little bit more about that as well next week. So we thank you all for tuning in to All Politics Are Local, America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. So Zahid, as we always say, we'll catch our people when.
Let's see you in the whirlwind.
Catch y'all in the whirlwind.